Chapter 55:07. You could interpret the name of the inn as meaning that once you entered it, you would be a family. You could also interpret it as meaning that there was only one inn in all of Ruined Town. None of that mattered. In any case, as long as you had enough spirit jades, one inn would definitely be able to provide you with a place to stay. Of course, the 4 big and 10 small sects and clans all had their own independent courtyards prepared in an inn. After all, the main characters of the Archaeozoic Grand Meeting were the 4 big and 10 small sects and clans. This kind of honor was a must. The registration was naturally done by the disciples of the Blue Cloud sect. Xian Egia, the new sect leader, and Lin Yi were personally accompanied by the innkeeper of an inn. They came to the independent courtyard with the flag of the Blue Cloud sect. Looking at the size of the courtyard, it could accommodate about 100 people. It was luxurious. Lin Yi took a look. On the left of the Blue Cloud sect was the flag of the Soaring Sky sect. On the right was the flag of the Snow Sword sect, and 1 yard further away was the flag of the Yiling sect. They were all sects that had a good relationship with the Blue Cloud sect. Of course, the Snow Sword sect and the Blue Cloud sect did not have a good relationship. It was mainly after the appearance of Lin Yi and Bing Wuqing reached the nascent soul realm that she went to the Blue Cloud sect to pay a visit to Lin Yi. This made the relationship between the Snow Sword sect and the Blue Cloud sect seem to be much more harmonious. From this arrangement, it could be seen that the inn at least did a good job in gathering information. Otherwise, if they arranged hostile sects together, there might be a melodramatic plot of climbing over the wall and assassinating people at night. It seems that we are quite early. The neighbors on the left and right are not here yet. Lin Yi scanned with his divine sense and found that these courtyards were all empty, so he said to Xian Egia with a smile. Xian Egia replied with a smile, "I was a little impatient. Does Grand Master want to see Bing Wuqing of the Snow Sword sect?" Lin Yi laughed and said, "I was just saying." The innkeeper said with a smile, "Sect leader Xian is just a little early. How is this impatient? I guess the other sects and clans will be here in a few hours. After all, the opening of the Archaeozoic meeting is just around the corner. Those sects and clans that want to enter the 10 small sects have already arrived a few days ago. Actually, it doesn't matter if it's early or not. Without strength, it's useless no matter how early you come." Xian Egia chatted with the shopkeeper for a while and let him go back. The shopkeeper was a busy man. It was good that he accompanied him. After all, Jadian was not the only Big Four and Tenyang. There were many others who were qualified to be accompanied by him. Lin Yi asked Xian Egia to settle the disciples he brought here, and then he brought Xian Egia out for a walk. Although half of the entire ruined town was an inn, the other half occupied a considerable amount of land. There were restaurants and tea houses, but most of them were temporary shops. There was naturally no lack of opportunities to trade heavenly materials and earthly treasures during every primeval grand meeting. Therefore, more than 80% of the ruined town was filled with various small shops, or rather, stalls. 70 to 80% of them were opened by individuals, and only 20 to 30% were businesses of sects, clans, or merchant clans. They were used to sell and purchase various heavenly materials and earthly treasures. Lin Yi had deeply experienced the difference between the ancient small underworld and the Heaven Stage Island. Therefore, he wanted to see if there was anything he needed. Unfortunately, after walking around, he did not find anything valuable. Of course, this was from Lin Yi's perspective. Nowadays, there were very few treasures that could catch his eye. Naturally, it was unlikely that they would be taken out to be sold on such an occasion. No matter what, they should be held in an auction to match the value of the treasures. Is there nothing that catches your eye, Marshal Uncle? Xian Egia saw that Lin Yi was a little dispirited. So he asked with a smile. Lin, he said faintly, it's not that there is nothing good. It's just that they are useless. It seems that it's not easy for real treasures to appear in the Archaeozoic meeting. In fact, the Archaeozoic meeting hasn't really started yet. Of course, Marshall Uncle won't be interested in those that come out now. When the Archaeozoic meeting officially starts, I think there will be more good things. Moreover, at that time, the 4 big and 10 small sects and clans, including those who are qualified to challenge the 10 small sects and clans, will organize a barter exchange in private. If Marshall Uncle is interested, you can go and have a look at it at that time. Although Xian Egia's strength was not high, he knew a lot about the Archaeozoic meeting. At this time, his words were clear and logical. Lin Yi's eyes lit up and said, "This is good news. I hope it won't disappoint me. I'm afraid that Marshall Uncle is too picky and doesn't like the treasures of the various sects and clans." Xian Egia said with a smile. Seeing that the sky was getting dark, he pointed at the restaurant by the road and said, "Marshall Uncle, why don't we have dinner here?" When Lin Yi was about to nod in agreement, his expression suddenly changed slightly. He said with a smile, "Forget it. I don't feel like eating. You can go back first. Cultivate and make a breakthrough today. Then we will have a higher chance in the Archaeozoic meeting." Xian Egia naturally would not object to what Lin Yi said. On the way to the Archaeozoic mountains, he had taken the opportunity to stabilize his realm. It was true that he could take another golden elixir of nascent soul to make a breakthrough to the late stage of nascent soul. "Marshall Uncle, are you going to walk alone?" Xian Egia asked. After getting an affirmative answer from Lin Yi, he bowed respectfully and left. He returned to the Jadian sect to prepare for the breakthrough. After Xian Egia left, Lin Yi walked slowly with his hands behind his back. He gradually walked into a remote alley on the side. The sky was getting dark, and there was not a single person in the alley. When Lin Yi walked to the middle of the alley, a person suddenly fell from the sky in front of him and stopped in front of Lin Yi. Behind him, a person followed in the alley where Lin Yi came in and quickly approached Lin Yi. "Young man, I told you that you can't escape. How about it? You didn't expect to see me again so soon, did you?" The person in front of Lin Yi was Yin Chuncheng, who came to the Jadian sect to pick a fight. Seeing that Lin Yi was surrounded, he suddenly laughed proudly. The person behind Lin Yi was the head of Bixia sect, Zhao Dan. His strength was also at the peak of the early stage of nascent soul. This time, Bixia sect's team to participate in the Archaeozoic Grand Meeting were led by these 2 nascent soul masters. Because of the blood soul mark on Lin Yi, Yin Chuncheng knew Lin Yi's whereabouts like the back of his hand. Lin Yi chuckled and said calmly, "Yo, isn't this the old man Yin who said that he wanted to die a quick death last time, but in the end, he escaped even faster? What's wrong? This time, you've decided to die a quick death? Don't run away halfway again." Lin Yi naturally noticed that these 2 people were following him. Just now, his divine sense had already seen Yin Chuncheng and Zhao Dan sneaking up behind him. So Lin Yi sent Xian Egia back first. "Happy Mid-Autumn Festival. Second update. Please add Fishman's official QQ account. Fishman 2, WeChat, official urine 22, all kinds of latest news, signed books, and activities are constantly sent." Chapter 5508. If Lin Yi wasn't able to do anything to Yi Chuncheng last time at the Blue Cloud sect, then this time, Lin Yi was completely confident. That was why he decided to beat them at their own game, walking to this remote place and baiting them out. Yin Chuncheng smiled sinisterly. "Junior, you are about to die, and you still want to win with words. Last time, I was careless. Today, I have evil warding sects leader, Zhao Xiaodan, to work with me. I don't believe you can play any tricks." Actually, after leaving last time, Yin Chuncheng realized that other than that weird pill firebomb, Lin Yi's other attacks were very strong, but they did very little damage to him. If he was injured, he might have already killed Lin Yi. But considering that the archaic meeting was about to start, Yin Chuncheng suppressed the thought of going back to find Lin Yi. He wanted to find Zhao Xiaodan to deal with Lin Yi together. From this point, Yin Chuncheng subconsciously saw Lin Yi as a very threatening opponent. Although he thought Lin Yi could only scare people, he didn't want to deal with Lin Yi alone. Initially, Zhao Xiaodong wasn't very willing. After all, the immemorial meeting was very important to the evil warding sect. Although Yin Jiping was a disciple of the evil warding sect, Zhao Xiaodong wasn't very interested in avenging Yin Jiping. At least, before the immemorial meeting ended, he wasn't interested at all. However, Yin Chuncheng was the supreme elder of the evil warding sect, and he was much stronger than Zhao Xiaodong. Since Yin Chuncheng had asked, Zhao Xiaodong had no choice but to help. But seeing that Lin Yi was only at Foundation Establishment realm, Zhao Xiaodan heaved a sigh of relief. With this kind of strength, he was really just here to go through the motions. He was only at the peak of Foundation Establishment. So why would Yin Chuncheng need help? Zhao Dan completely ignored this. Lin Yi shrugged. Tricks? I never play tricks. How do you want to die, old man Yin? Hurry up. I still need to go back for dinner after I'm done admiring. Yin Chuncheng saw that Lin Yi had no intention of condensing a pill firebomb, and the fear in his heart lessened. In his view, Lin Yi only had one move that could threaten him. Junior, since you want to die, this old man will fulfill your wish. It's rare for your primordial spirit body to be so solid. This old man will definitely have a good taste and not waste your good flesh. After Yin Chuncheng finished speaking, he shook his right sleeve and a huge suction force pulled Lin Yi over. Lin Yi didn't resist at all. He allowed Yin Chuncheng to pull his primordial spirit as he charged at Yin Chuncheng like a meteor. Yin Chuncheng, on the other hand, was on full alert. After all, Lin Yi had used this move against Yin Chuncheng in the Blue Cloud sect. When Yin Chuncheng used this move, he felt a lot of pressure. But this time, Lin Yi did not retaliate. No matter how cautious Yin Chuncheng was, it was all useless. Lin Yi was pulled over by Yin Chuncheng and then swallowed by the dumbfounded Yin Chuncheng. Evil warding sect's unique secret technique, God swallowing. Of course, this did not mean a deity, but a primordial spirit. Because of this move, evil warding sect's disciples could quickly level up as long as they had enough primordial spirits. Zhao Danyan saw Yin Chuncheng swallow Lin Yi in one gulp, and his face turned bitter. You called me over to help, after all. Even though it was just a show, shouldn't you at least get a bite? Just like that. Was it appropriate? Was it appropriate? Ah, all right, you're the Supreme Elder. Whether it was appropriate or not, it didn't matter. Supreme Elder, such a weak primordial spirit. Do you really need to deal with it? You even asked me to do it. Isn't this making a big deal out of nothing? Zhao Xiaodan was unhappy, so he grumbled a little. However, he didn't dare offend Yin Chuncheng too much. After all, Yin Chuncheng was a great elder, and his strength wasn't something Zhao Xiaodan could compare to. Yin Chuncheng was also stunned and said, "It wasn't like this last time. This junior was clearly very strong, so why was he swallowed by this old man just like that?" To be honest, Yin Chuncheng had never thought that he would be able to swallow Lin Yi in one go. Before he attacked, he had simulated dozens of possible reactions from Lin Yi in his mind, and he had thought of a way to deal with them. The only thing he hadn't expected was for Lin Yi to not resist at all, and for him to swallow him directly. Also, Yin Chuncheng's swallowing of Lin Yi was completely subconscious. He was very familiar with this sequence of moves. Usually, those primordial spirits would be pulled over and swallowed without any resistance. When Lin Yi did not resist, he fell into Yin Qingqing's eating rhythm. Zhao Xiaodan said, sourly, fine, fine. Supreme Elder swallowed, such a good primordial spirit this time. You should have the confidence to break through. Our evil warding sect will be stronger. Let's go. Supreme Elder should digest this when we go back. Zhao Xiaodan turned and was about to go back, but Yin Qingqing's face suddenly changed. No, this junior is strange. Strange? How is it strange? Zhao Xiaodan looked strangely at Yin Qingqing. He thought to himself, don't act like you've taken advantage of me. I didn't ask you for anything. Do you have to act like this? But Zhao Xiaodan immediately realized that something was wrong. Yin Qingqing's face was twisted, and his body was twitching on the ground. The situation was very bad. In Yin Qingqing's body, Yin Qingqing's primordial spirit was looking at Lin Yi in shock. He stammered, You are not Foundation Establishment Peak. A mocking smile hung on Lin Yi's lips. Did I tell you that I'm at the peak of Foundation Establishment? Yin Qingqing thought about it and agreed. Lin Yi never said he was Foundation Establishment Peak. It was just that his primordial spirit showed his strength to be Foundation Establishment Peak. But which Foundation Establishment Peak could fight against a peak, nascent soul late stage, cultivator like Yin Qingqing, and still have the upper hand? You King tricked me. Yin Qingqing's face was full of grief and indignation. It was his own fault. He just couldn't understand such an obvious thing. Lin Yi shrugged innocently. I'm not Foundation Establishment Peak. It's just what you think. How am I tricking you? Speaking of which, can you be serious and die faster now? Yin Qingqing tried to digest Lin Yi's primordial spirit, but he couldn't move it at all. His power was like a light breeze, but Lin Yi's primordial spirit was like a towering mountain. This light breeze couldn't even move a pebble on the mountain. Happy Mid-Autumn Festival. Third update. Please add the Fishman's QQ God account, Fishman2, and WeChat account Urine22. All kinds of latest news, autograph books, and events will be sent non-stop. Chapter 5509. You're not at Foundation Establishment Great Completion. What are you? Yin Qingqing's heart was dead. He knew that he could not escape. In this situation, it was clear that Lin Yi's spirit was above his. This was the most fatal point of the evil warding sect. If he swallowed a spirit stronger than him, then there was only one result, death. This time, he really did not want to die quickly. Lin Yi smiled faintly. You still don't understand? I'm a profound ascension spirit. Xian Sheng. I, Yin Qingqing, have no regrets in dying. Yin Qingqing laughed bitterly. Then his body completely exploded. He could not be more dead. The communication between primordial spirits only lasted for a moment. Therefore, when Yin Qingqing exploded and died, Zhao Yuanqing turned around and saw Yin Qingqing twitching on the ground. When he was about to go over to check, he saw that Yin Qingqing was completely dead. The splattered flesh and blood were completely vaporized in the air. There was no trace left. Lin Yi's spirit appeared where Yin Qingqing's body disappeared. He held a black bracelet in his hand. There was also a misty spirit in front of him. It was Yin Qingqing's spirit. The moment Yin Qingqing's body exploded, everything on him was destroyed. Only this black bracelet was not damaged. It was clearly a rare treasure. Lin Yi immediately remembered that his spirit sense attack was ineffective against Yin Qingqing. It seemed like it was due to this black bracelet. As for Yin Qingqing's primordial spirit, it was supposed to be destroyed as well. Lin Yi took it down, but he didn't know how to deal with it. Speaking of devouring, Lin Yi was not interested. After all, Lin Yi had not digested the spirit of the heaven-devouring giant crocodile. There were still Yu Taitsong and Chu Hengding imprisoned in the Jade Space. Lin Yi was not interested in this method of leveling up. Therefore, Lin Yi was too lazy to deal with this spirit. He focused on the black bracelet. However, what Lin Yi did not expect was that after Zhao Sheng saw Yin Qinqing's spirit, he immediately waved his sleeve and swallowed Yin Qinqing's spirit. Lin Yi was shocked. Of course, he could have stopped it, but he did not. First, Lin Yi did not know how to deal with Yin Qinqing's spirit. Second, Lin Yi wanted to see what Zhao Sheng wanted to do. If Zhao Tong wanted to save Yin Qinqing and escape, Lin Yi, of course, wouldn't let him have his way. But Zhao Tong swallowed Yin Qinqing's soul in one mouth. This was unbelievable. Hey, did you not see what happened to Yin Qinqing? He dared to swallow his spirit? Lin Yi asked strangely. Yin Qinqing's spirit was at the peak of the late stage of nascent soul. It was much stronger than Zhao Sheng's. Yin Qinqing had just exploded because he swallowed a spirit stronger than him. Now, Zhao Sheng was doing this. Was he looking to die? Moreover, no matter what, Yin Qinqing was from the same sect as Zhao Dan. Could he really do it? After Zhao Quan swallowed Yin Qinqing's soul, he knelt down with a thud. Lin Yi was shocked. Was he going to explode, just like that? Qianbei was forced by Grand Elder, no, Yin Qinqing, that old thief, to block Qianbei. Actually, Qianbei has been unhappy with this old thief for a long time. Day and night, I thought about how to eat this old thief. Today, I finally got the chance. That's why I couldn't help but swallow this old thief's spirit. I definitely did not want to offend Qianbei. After kneeling down, Zhao Sheng was full of tears and snot. He spoke as if he was very pitiful. He did not look like someone who had just swallowed the spirit of a peak late-stage nascent soul cultivator. Lin Yi looked strangely at Zhao Sheng. After a while, he said, "You swallowed Yin Qinqing. Is nothing wrong?" Zhao Sheng was startled and immediately said respectfully, "Qianbei might not know." Under normal circumstances, if the primordial spirit was stronger than the body, devouring it would cause the body to explode. However, Yin Qinqing's primordial spirit had been destroyed by Senior and was at its weakest. At this time, no matter how strong the primordial spirit was, it was just a great supplement. It would not have any adverse effects. Plus, he and I are from the same sect. Even if he is stronger than me under normal circumstances, I can still swallow him. So that's how it is. So you purposely took this chance to snatch the spirit from me? Lin Yi raised his eyebrows and said to Zhao Sheng with a smile that was not a smile. Zhao Sheng's back immediately broke out in cold sweat. He cursed himself for being too talkative. What the hell was he talking about? He had seen how terrifying Lin Yi was. To be able to make Yin Qinqing explode, it had to be at least a peak, nascent soul cultivator. Moreover, Yin Qinqing exploded so easily and Lin Yi was not injured at all. Even a peak, nascent soul cultivator would not be able to block it. Then, it could only be the legendary Xian Sheng. What would happen if you offended a profound ascending stage spirit? Zhao Sheng thought about it and felt that he should just slit his own throat. He immediately knelt on the ground and said with a trembling voice, "Qianbei, please spare me. Qianbei, please spare me. Qianbei really did not mean to steal your spoils of war. It is just that I have a deep grudge against Yin Qinqing that I subconsciously did such a stupid thing. Qianbei, please spare me this time." While begging for mercy, Zhao Sheng was still cursing Yin Qinqing in his heart. It was fine if he wanted to die, but he had to drag me into it. Why did he have to offend a profound ascending stage spirit? If he wanted to die, he could have just hung himself. Why did he have to go through so much trouble? Originally, Zhao Sheng was full of confidence and wanted to perform well at the immemorial gathering. After all, two nascent soul cultivators were quite powerful. But now it was all over. He didn't even know if he could keep his life. It would already be good if the evil warding sect didn't drop out of the top 10. Linny rubbed his chin and said playfully, "You stole my spoils of war. You can't really ask me to spare you just because you begged for mercy, right? I haven't even paid you back for intercepting me." Zhao Yuantong kowtowed a few more times before putting on a fawning smile and said, "Of course, I can't let seniors suffer any losses. How about this? As an apology to senior, I will give you the treasures that we prepared for the evil warding sect. Although it is not enough to compensate for your loss, please forgive me on account of my sincerity." He didn't wait for Lin Yi's response and quickly took out a brocade box, raising it above his head with a pained look on his face. "Happy Mid-Autumn Festival, 4th update. Please add Fishman's QQ God account, Fishman2, and WeChat account Urine22. All kinds of news, signed books, and events will be sent non-stop." Chapter 5510. Linny took it and scanned it with his divine sense. He didn't find any mechanism. He opened the brocade box and found a dark blue inner dan of a sea beast. Although it was only the size of an egg, it was completely incomparable to the 2 fist-sized inner dan of the sea crab, but the spiritual fluctuations contained in it made Lin Yi's face change slightly. A sea beast inner dan of the mysterious ascending stage. And it's a sea beast that is at least at the peak of the middle stage of mysterious ascending stage. To be honest, Linny was really shocked this time. Wasn't there no mysterious ascending stage in the small Jianghu? Although Tai Shi was at the mysterious ascending stage before, it was only a Yuan Shen. The original Tai Shi did not reach the height of the mysterious ascending stage at that time. Zhao Dan's heart shook, thinking that this man was really the legendary mysterious ascending stage. Otherwise, how could he accurately say the level of this inner dan of the sea beast? How did you get a sea beast inner dan of the mysterious ascending stage? Don't tell me you have the ability to hunt sea beasts of the mysterious ascending stage. Linny was really curious now, not to mention whether there was a mysterious ascending stage existence in this small Jianghu. Just the fact that Zhao Dan got such a sea beast inner dan was enough to arouse Lin Yi's interest. Zhao Dan didn't dare to hide anything, and immediately said with a smile, replying to Senior, "This sea beast Niden was found by my sect not long ago in a cave left by a predecessor thousands of years ago. Although there are no more mysterious ascension stage cultivators in the ancient small world, there should have been some thousands of years ago. Otherwise, there wouldn't be the legend of mysterious ascension. This sea beast is probably the same. Its strength was much stronger than it is now." Lin Yi nodded. This explanation made sense. Since it was a cave from thousands of years ago, it was not surprising that there was such a good thing. But this inner dan, after thousands of years, it still maintained such a pure spiritual fluctuation. He didn't know if the inner dan of the sea beast was like this. Its shelf life was super long. Since it is the senior's cave, there should be more than one inner dan, right? Are there any other treasures? Lin Yi asked casually. He wasn't trying to extort anything, but he was just curious. He didn't think that Zhao Dan would tell him the truth. Anyway, there was no way he'd give Lin Yi all the good stuff he had. But to Lin Yi's surprise, Zhao Dan pointed to the black bracelet in Lin Yi's hand and said, "The bracelet in the senior's hand was also found in the cave, except for these 2 things. There is nothing else." Lin Yi couldn't help but chuckle. It seemed like this guy saw that the bracelet was in Lin Yi's hands, and there was no way he could get it back. As for whether or not there was anything else, it wasn't up to him to decide, unless Lin Yi used a soul-searching technique on him. What treasure is this bracelet? How do I use it? To be honest, Lin Yi was more interested in this bracelet than the inner dan of the mystic ascending stage, sea beast. After all, Lin Yi had guessed that this was the main method that Yin Chuncheng could use to resist Lin Yi's divine sense attack. Zhao Dan said honestly, "This bracelet is called the Divine Controlling Bracelet. As long as a trace of divine sense is injected, it can automatically protect the owner of the divine sense. Any divine sense attack that does not exceed the user by one major realm can be resisted, but it can only resist 5 attacks at once. After 5 times, the energy in the bracelet will be exhausted, and it will take a day to recover. Of course, if you receive a divine sense attack that exceeds one major realm, the defense of this bracelet will be ineffective." Linny was pleasantly surprised. This was really a good treasure. No wonder Yin Chuncheng could resist the divine sense attack, including the soul reaping hand. It was because Lin Yi's divine sense level had not reached the requirement of exceeding one major realm, and Yin Chuncheng retreated from the Green Cloud sect, probably because the usage of the divine controlling bracelet was already at its limit. Thinking about this, Lin Yi thought that if he had used a combo on him that day, this old man would probably have died already. With the strength of Lin Yi's divine sense, with this bracelet, he could directly ignore the divine sense attacks of the mountain opening stage, as long as they were not above the peak of the mountain opening stage. All right, seeing that you have some sincerity, I will let this matter go. You can leave. Linny obtained 2 treasures and was in a good mood, so he waved his hand to let Zhao Dan leave. Zhao Dan was overjoyed, but he was worried that Lin Yi would not let him go. After all, if Lin Yi killed him, everything that Zhao Dan had would belong to Lin Yi. "Thank you for not killing me, Senior. In the future, the evil warding sect will follow Senior's lead. If Senior has any orders, I will not hesitate to go through fire and water." Zhao Dan hurriedly stood up. As he expressed his loyalty, he bowed and retreated. By the time he finished speaking, he was already at the entrance of the alley. Immediately, he fled the place like a stray dog. Lin Yi let Zhao Dan go and put on the divine controlling bracelet happily. He put away the profound ascending stage, Sea Beast Core, and walked out of the alley with his hands behind his back. Originally, Lin Yi thought that Yin Chuncheng could resist the soul reaping hand and the divine sense whirlpool because of some evil warding sect technique. If that was the case, then the evil warding sect would be his nemesis in the immemorial Jianghu. Luckily, Lin Yi knew that Yin Chuncheng completely relied on the divine controlling bracelet to do all this, so Lin Yi naturally relaxed. Since the evil warding sect was no longer a threat to him, he could just let Zhao Xiaodan go. If he had the time in the future, he could go look for Zhao Xiaodan and ask him to bring him to the cave to see if there was anything else he could find. Leisurely strolling back to an inn, Lin Yi found Ling Tianyu in his divine sense. What made Lin Yi feel strange was that Ling Tianyu was drinking alone in the hall of the inn. This was completely different from the usual feeling that Ling Tianyu gave Lin Yi. Seeing Ling Tianyu drinking one cup after another, Lin Yi guessed that this guy was stimulated by something. In any case, Ling Tianyu was a person that Lin Yi had a good impression of. Since Ling Tianyu was in trouble, Lin Yi thought that he should go and talk to him. Before Lin Yi went in, Wei Yidao suddenly came down from the 2nd floor and went straight to Ling Tianyu's table. He laughed and said, "Yo, if it isn't the peerless genius of the Thousand Blades sect, young Master Ling, why are you drinking alone?" Ling Tianyu didn't raise his head and filled the cup in his hand. He just said indifferently, "Go away." Wei Yidao's complexion changed, and he instantly put away his smile. He grabbed Ling Tianyu's hair and forcefully pulled back, making Ling Tianyu's face to the ceiling. Then he slapped Ling Tianyu's face again and again. Happy Mid-Autumn Festival, 5th update. Please add Fishman's QQ God account, Fishman 2nd generation. WeChat account you're in 22, all kinds of latest news, autograph books, and activities are constantly being sent. Chapter 55:11. Who are you pretending to be? You actually have the nerve to participate in the archaic grand meeting with your trashy appearance? Do you really think that you are a peerless genius that only appears once in 10,000 years? Do you really think that your trash Thousand Blades sect can obtain a place in the top 10? Ha ha ha. To be honest, you actually came here to make a fool of yourself, right? Wei Yidao didn't care about the gazes of the people around him and wantonly insulted Ling Tianyu. Lin Yi's eyes turned cold, and he was about to make a move. However, the waiter of the inn had already appeared and said to Wei Yidao with a smile, "Sir, this inn prohibits private fights and trouble. If you have any grievances, please go out and settle them yourself." Since someone from the inn had come out, Lin Yi was in no hurry to make a move. He simply entered the door and stood in a corner, coldly watching the situation unfold. Normally, with the return of primordial, invincible, nascent soul, even if the Thousand Blades sect wasn't a top-notch sect, it definitely wasn't a sect that trash like the Hegemon's Saber School would dare to provoke. However, looking at Wei Yidao's appearance, it seemed that he didn't care about primordial invincible at all. Wei Yidao loosened his grip on Ling Tianyu's hair and shrugged his shoulders at the inn's waiter. "No, I was just playing with him. How could there be a private fight? Don't worry, I know the rules of an inn." "That's for the best." The waiter still maintained his smile. He glanced at the unresponsive Ling Tianyu and continued in a tone that was neither servile nor overbearing. "However, even if it was just a joke, please don't affect others." "All right, I understand." Wei Yidao waved his hand and sent the waiter away. Although this inn had a powerful background, and he didn't dare to offend them too much, Wei Yidao definitely didn't think that he should be polite to a waiter. Ling Tianyu didn't seem to be dissatisfied with what happened earlier. After the waiter left, he wanted to grab a cup of wine again. Wei Yidao casually picked up the wine pot, pinched Ling Tianyu's chin, and poured it down his throat. Come. Long time no see. Let me toast you today. If you don't finish it, it'll be too disrespectful." Wei Yidao said loudly as he gulped down the wine. His gaze inadvertently swept over the waiter, who had just left. The waiter's footsteps paused, but in the end, he did not have the intention to return. After all, Wei Yidao had said to offer a toast. Even if it was a little excessive, as long as they did not fight after the previous warning, it would not be appropriate for the inn to issue another warning, unless the two of them really fought. However, looking at Ling Tianyu's submissive attitude, it was unlikely that he would make a move. Therefore, the shop assistant could only ignore Wei Yidao's behavior for the time being. After testing the bottom line of the inn's tolerance, Wei Yidao knew what to do. As he continued to pour wine into Ling Tianyu's mouth, he didn't forget to ridicule him. "What a good-for-nothing! If I were you, I would definitely hide in your mother's pants and not come out so as not to embarrass myself. Do you really think that you can rise again just because you found an old fart? You're simply indulging in the wildest fantasies. You even went to the Qianquan sect. Ha ha ha! I've discovered that your Thousand Blades sect's laughable consummate skill is truly invincible." Just as they were happily talking, Ling Tianyu suddenly spat out a mouthful of wine, drenching Wei Yidao's head and face. "Shut up." It was unknown which of Wei Yidao's words had poked Ling Tianyu's sore spot, but Ling Tianyu, who had been silent all this time, finally exploded. Not only did he spit out wine all over Wei Yidao's face, he also grabbed Wei Yidao's wrist that was holding the wine pot and smashed it towards Wei Yidao's head. However, in terms of strength, Wei Yidao, the young master of the Tyrant's Blade sect, was completely superior to Ling Tianyu, the young master of the Thousand Blades sect. Caught off guard, Wei Yidao had already been spat out wine all over his face. How could he allow Ling Tianyu to smash his own head with his own hand? Then Wei Yidao really didn't need to mingle around in the future. The two's hands were only in a deadlock for a moment before Wei Yidao began to gain the upper hand. However, Ling Tianyu wasn't completely defenseless and could still hold on for a while. At the side, Lin Yi was no longer in a hurry to make a move. If Ling Tianyu didn't have the guts to fight back, Lin Yi would at most help him out once, and it would be the same in the future. However, since Ling Tianyu still had the guts to fight back, Lin Yi felt that it was better for him to wait and see. "I'll fight you to the death." Ling Tianyu's face was red. Since he was at a disadvantage in terms of strength, he directly controlled dozens of silver needles to fly out, preparing to use them to deal with Wei Yidao. Wei Yidao's eyes revealed an ominous glint, and he said with a ferocious expression, "You dare to use weapons? Then wait for this young master to cut you into 8 pieces. You too, this forbids private fights." The shop assistant from before came back again. The two of them were about to use their knives. It couldn't be considered a joke, right? Wei Yidao looked a little afraid, but Ling Tianyu turned a deaf ear to him. It was unknown whether it was because he had drunk too much or because he was too agitated, but the silver needles didn't stop stabbing at Wei Yidao from all directions. At most, Ling Tianyu could control thousands of silver needles. These dozens of silver needles were really nothing. Seeing that Wei Yidao was about to suffer a loss, a wave of qi directly swept over from the second floor, cutting off the connection between these silver needles and Ling Tianyu. "Waiter, if there are any losses, put it all on our tyrant's blade sect." A figure directly flew down from the second floor, and at the same time gave an order to the waiter who was trying to stop Wei Yidao and Ling Tianyu. The qi just now was released by this person. When it landed, the momentum of the peak of the intermediate gold core realm was completely revealed. However, the waiter of an inn didn't buy it at all. Instead, he put away his smile and said coldly, "A gold core realm cultivator of the Tyrant's Blade sect is fighting in our inn. Do you want to be disqualified from participating in the Archaeozoic Grand Meeting?" The practitioner at the peak of the intermediate gold core realm, who had already clawed at Ling Tianyu's throat, suddenly stopped moving. This time, the Tyrant's Blade sect came to compete for the top 10 small sects and families. If they were disqualified because of such a small matter, they would definitely be abandoned by the sect. Although a waiter couldn't represent the inn and might not have the ability to disqualify the Tyrant's Blade sect, it was better to be safe than sorry. The name of the Tyrant's Blade sect was really not very useful for an inn. Just when this man was in an awkward dilemma, Lin Yi appeared beside Ling Tianyu like a ghost and directly slapped Wei Yidao away. After knocking over several empty tables, he fell to the ground and rolled a few times before stopping. As for the practitioner at the peak of the intermediate gold core realm, Lin Yi didn't show any mercy. He didn't even bother to take back the slap he used to slap Wei Yidao away. With a flash of red light on his palm, the frenzied fire 8 trigrams palm slapped on his face. From today onwards, 2 updates a day will be restored in advance. Please add the Fishman QQ Gods official account, Fishman2, WeChat official account 22, all kinds of latest news and updates, and the latest news of the Fishman. Chapter 55:12. This unlucky guy was much more miserable than Wei Yidao. How could the raging fire 8 trigrams palm be so easy to bear? He screamed and flew back to the second floor while emitting black smoke. Judging from the sound, it seemed that flipping over tables was inevitable. A waiter of an inn gaped at Lin Yi. His warning to the Tyrant's Saber sect just now was not a joke. This guy in front of him was too arrogant. He didn't put an in his eyes at all. Lin Yi glanced at the waiter indifferently and said expressionlessly, "I'm Lin Yi." The waiter was shocked and immediately put on a smile. Senior Lin from the Blue Cloud sect of the North Island. These are all trivial matters. Don't take it to heart. I still have to thank Senior Lin for teaching those two ignorant things a lesson. The onlookers on the side immediately looked at him. Didn't they say that private fights would cause them to be disqualified? Why was it completely different when it came to the Blue Cloud sect of the North Island? Could it be that the 10 small sects and families already had such privileges? In fact, the Blue Cloud sect of the North Island did not have such privileges, but the intelligence system behind the inn was quite powerful. The waiter naturally knew that Lin E was in the top 3 on the list of people that all the sects paid attention to and should not provoke. The waiter naturally knew that the strength of Lin E could not be accurately determined for the time being, but the fact that Lin E refined 2 supreme-grade gold elixirs of nascent soul in 4 hours in the Chu family was enough for the inn to regard Lin E as the most important guest. In that case, I'll have to trouble you. Lin E did not say much. Anyway, he was not the one who stirred up trouble. And to be honest, in the small Jianghu of the ancient times, Lin E really had nothing to fear. The waiter smiled and left, and then quickly cleaned up the mess. As for Wei Yidao, after seeing Lin Yi's strength, he had already left dejectedly. Lin Yi just taught him a lesson and did not kill him. Otherwise, how could Wei Yidao get up so easily? Ling Tianyu, what happened to you? Lin Yi couldn't be bothered with a nobody like Wei Yidao. He turned around and asked Ling Tianyu to sit back down. Ling Tianyu let out a long sigh, cupped his fists, and said, "This time, it is all thanks to Brother Lin's help. Thank you very much." Lin Yi waved his hand and said, "Since we are friends, there is no need to be so polite. Tell me what happened to you. If you have any difficulties, maybe I can help you think of a way." Ling Tianyu hesitated for a moment. He seemed to feel that Lin Yi was not an outsider. Besides, this matter was not a secret, and he could easily find out about it by asking around. To tell you the truth, after finding the invincible patriarch, he directly went to Qiankuan's sect to find trouble. No matter how I tried to persuade him, Qiankuan's sect's strength and foundation are no longer the same as before. Patriarch went there alone, but he was completely no match for them. Speaking of this matter, Ling Tianyu was quite depressed. He originally thought that with immemorial, invincible, a great perfection nascent soul realm expert, the Thousand Blades sect would have no problem returning to the 10 small sects. Who knew that immemorial invincible was so stupid? Well, it was a bit disrespectful to say that the patriarch was stupid. In any case, an expert who had just returned was completely useless. Lin Yi was also speechless. If he had to say, immemorial invincible was an idiot. He clearly knew that Qiankuan sect was very powerful now, but he still thought that it was the era when immemorial invincible dominated the small Jianghu of the ancient times. Immemorial invincible was killed by Qiankuan's sect. Lin Yi really sympathized with Ling Tianyu. This guy wanted to revitalize the Thousand Blades sect. He finally had a hope, but it was destroyed just like that. Ling Tianyu shook his head and said, "No, but he was crippled by Qiankuan's sect and sent back. The reason why he didn't kill the patriarch is to intimidate the world and establish the prestige of Qiankuan's sect. Killing the chicken to warn the monkeys. Your patriarch is the chicken, and all those who want to challenge Qiankuan's sect are the monkeys." Lin Yi nodded thoughtfully. Since immemorial invincible was crippled, it was natural that Wei Yidao's Hegemon's Saber School dared to provoke them. Hegemon's Saber School was originally the lackey of Qiankuan's sect. It would be strange if they didn't take the opportunity to trample on them. Moreover, Wei Yidao and Ling Tianyu didn't get along with each other. Hegemon's Saber School and Thousand Blades sect were competitors who wanted to enter the 10 small sects. If immemorial invincible was fine, Wei Yidao probably wouldn't dare to fart in front of Ling Tianyu. Lin Yi, it turns out that you are eating with Ling Tianyu here. Suddenly, a beautiful female voice sounded in surprise. Lin Yi didn't need to look to know that it was Duanmu Yu. Xiaoyu, come and sit with us. Lin Yi turned around and asked the waiter to bring 2 sets of bowls and chopsticks. Then he said, "Why are you here alone? Didn't Yi Qingcheng and your master come?" Duanmu, you blushed a little. She greeted Ling Tianyu first, and then answered, "Yes, I want to go out alone, so I didn't go with them." In fact, Duanmu, you couldn't wait to find Lin Yi when she saw that the people of Blue Cloud sect of the North Island had arrived. Yi Qingcheng would raise both hands and feet in favor of this kind of thing, so he let Duanmu, you come out alone. Unfortunately, Lin Yi hadn't gone back yet. After Duanmu, you didn't find him. She thought that if she waited for Lin Yi at the entrance of the inn, she could see him earlier, so she appeared here alone. The remote ancient grand meeting hasn't started yet, and there's nothing to stroll around in the ruined town. Let's eat and chat together. Anyway, Ling Tianyu is no stranger to you. Lin Yi took the bowls and chopsticks from the waiter and said while setting them for Duanmu Yu. Duanmu Yu thought in her heart, "What a blockhead! If there's nothing to stroll around, why don't you accompany me to stroll around? Even if it's a meal, it's better for 2 than for 3, isn't it?" It was just that she couldn't say out her childish thoughts. She could only nod with a smile and order a few more dishes. With the company of Lin Yi and Duanmu Yu, Ling Tianyu's mood also became cheerful. He was originally a strong-willed person. Previously, he was just a little bit stubborn. Now that he was chatting with Lin Yi, he gradually let it go. While the 3 of them were talking, Wei Yidao came back. Beside him was a young man who seemed to be in his early 20s. Of course, it was impossible to tell the age of a cultivator. Although Lin Yi wasn't very sure, he could roughly see that this young man should have reached the nascent soul realm. Wei Yidao whispered a few words in the young man's ear and pointed at Lin Yi and the other 2. It seemed that he had found a helper to take revenge. It was not easy for Wei Yidao to invite a master of the nascent soul realm. Fishman's new book, CEO School Bell Relies on Me, is in the midst of being serialized. I recommend everyone to read it. Please add Fishman's official QQ account, Fishman2, and WeChat account Urine22 for all kinds of latest news and latest developments of Fishman. Chapter 55:13. Lin Yi didn't care and continued to chat and eat with Ling Tianyu and Duanmu Yu. He was just a nascent soul cultivator. Although he didn't know his specific level, he was definitely not as powerful as Yin Chuncheng. Even if he had the God-controlling bracelet, he wouldn't be able to block Lin Yi's divine sense attack. The young man was originally looking at Ling Tianyu, but after seeing Duanmu Yu, he immediately changed his target. He pushed away Wei Yidao, who was still talking in his ear, and walked over in what he thought was the most handsome manner. "This beauty, it's really fate that brought us together." This young master said that something good seemed to have happened today. "It turns out that I met the woman of my dreams." From this guy's expression, it could be inferred that his so-called dream was at most a wet dream. Get lost. Lin Yi's eyes turned cold, and he said coldly, "In all honesty, Lin Yi really didn't like trouble and rarely took the initiative to look for trouble. But if someone really came to look for trouble, Lin Yi didn't mind letting the other party know that trouble, in fact, looked like Lin Yi." The young man didn't pay attention to Lin Yi's warning at all. He just glanced at Lin Yi disdainfully and said to Duanmu Yu with a smile, "Beauty, what's the use of following these trash? Which sect or family do you belong to? Come, have a good chat with this young master. Let's drink a cup of wine first, and then talk at night under the candlelight. As long as this young master is satisfied, at least your family or sect will be able to sit firmly in the top 10 small sects and families. Duanmuyu moved towards Lin Yi with a look of disgust, wanting to stay away from this young man. At the same time, she said angrily, "Don't worry, I'm not interested in getting to know you. Also, can't you understand human language? I told you to get lost. Oh, you're a little hot pepper. This young master likes little hot peppers like you. When the time comes, it will be even more interesting." The thickness of this fellow's skin was not inferior to his own strength. Moreover, as he spoke, he actually reached out to grab Duanmuyu's wrist. Clearly, he was going to use force. Even Ling Tianyu couldn't tolerate such a complete disregard for Lin Yi, and Ling Tianyu, let alone Lin Yi. Although Duanmu had not made his relationship with Lin Yi completely clear, it was basically the same. Flirting with Duanmu in front of Lin Yi really didn't know how many lives this guy had. Getting lost was already Lin Yi's final warning, since this guy was courting death, and it was clear that he was sent by Wei Yidao. Lin Yi certainly wouldn't be polite anymore. 3 spiritual awareness whirlpools appeared out of thin air, spinning rapidly and tearing the soul of this young man. Moreover, Lin Yi also added some changes to it. After obtaining the spiritual awareness pill fire, Lin Yi had been trying to transform his spiritual awareness into pill fire at any time. The spiritual awareness whirlpool was completely composed of spiritual awareness, so there was no problem in transforming it into pill fire in theory. On the way here, Lin Yi had already put this idea into practice, and this time, Lin Yi, who was really angry, tried out this new spiritual sense elixir fire whirlpool for the first time. The whirlpool pulled and shook the young man's soul, and then the pill fire spread to the whole soul. It should be known that the soul was most afraid of things like pill fire. Usually with the physical defense, the pill fire couldn't directly attack the soul. However, after Lin Yi improved the spiritual awareness pill fire whirlpool, he managed to do this kind of impossible thing. The young man's hand was still stretched out in midair, a foot away from Duanmuyu's wrist, but it couldn't go any further. Lin Yi himself didn't expect that the power of the spiritual awareness whirlpool turning into pill fire would be so amazing. In just a flick of a finger, the young man's soul had already been turned into ashes. He didn't even have time to scream, and his whole body slowly fell to the ground on his back. Wei Yidao, who was behind him, was dumbfounded. In fact, he did not know what had happened, but the young man was already completely finished. Without going over to confirm, Wei Yidao was sure that the young man was completely dead. A bone-chilling feeling spread from the bottom of Wei Yidao's heart. Not only was he afraid of Lin Yi's means, but he was also afraid of the sect behind this young man. Wei Yidao was powerless against them. After a short while, Wei Yidao laughed hysterically. "It's over. You're dead. I'm dead too. How dare you kill the son of the sect leader of Qianquan's sect so openly? Blue Cloud sect on the North Island, Yiling sect, Thousand Blades sect, and our tyrant Saber sect get ready to bear the wrath of Qianquan's sect." In the end, Wei Yidao's wild laughter turned into crying. The son of the sect leader of Qianquan's sect. He had come because of his instigation, but he had died in the hands of Lin Yi the moment they met. It was basically impossible for Tyrant Saber sect to stay out of this. Just as Wei Yidao had said, Qianquan sect's wrath would turn all the sects that were related to them into ashes. Hearing the words Qianquan sect, many of the onlookers who had been watching the show disappeared without a trace. As the saying went, a fire at the city gate would bring disaster to the fish in the moat. Anyone who had anything to do with this matter might become the unlucky fish in the moat. Therefore, it was better to run as far away as possible now. The waiter's expression had already changed. Lin Yi was indeed someone that the inn didn't want to provoke, but Qianquan sect was ranked first on the list of people that they couldn't afford to offend. In fact, the inn had the shadow of Chinquan's sect behind it. Now that the son of the sect leader of Chinquan's sect had died in an inn, things were really getting out of hand. Wei Yidao, who had lost control of his emotions, ran out crying and laughing. He didn't even care about the body of the son of the sect leader. As for the people of the inn, they didn't come out to do anything. This matter was no longer something that they could handle. Both sides were not simple people. Staying out of it was the best way. In fact, the background of the inn was one of the 4 major sects. The primordial mountains were jointly controlled by the 4 major sections. Naturally, the ruined town was also jointly controlled by the 4 major sections. The reason why the inn was so confident was because of this place. If Lin Yi was only the martial granduncle of the Blue Cloud sect in the North Island without the identity of a senior alchemist, the inn would naturally deal with him immediately for the sake of the Chinquan sect behind it. But since Lin Yi was not so simple, and the Chinquan sect was only one of the 4 masters behind the inn, it was best for the Chinquan sect to deal with him themselves. Ling Tianyu's face was a little pale, but there was no fear in his expression. Anyway, the Thousand Blades faction and the Chinquan sect had been enemies for generations. One more life was not a big deal at all. Brother Lin, this time I, Ling Tianyu, have dragged you down. If Wei Yidao hadn't wanted to deal with me, he wouldn't have brought the people of the Chinquan sect here and dragged you into this. Ling Tianyu said to Lin Yi apologetically. Fishman's new book, CEO Schoolbell Relies on Me, is being serialized. I recommend everyone to read it. Please add Fishman's QQ Guru public account, Fishman 2, WeChat public account 22, all kinds of latest news, Fishman's latest news, to be continued. Chapter 55:14. If it was only Ling Tianyu himself, it would not be a big deal to offend the Chinquan sect. But Lin Yi had the North Island's Blue Cloud sect behind him. Offending the Chinquan sect was not a good thing for the North Island's Blue Cloud sect. Lin Yi smiled faintly and said, "It's none of your business. This time, this guy provoked me. He deserves to die." This was true. If the son of the head of the Chinquan sect had not wanted to flirt with Duanmu, Lin Yi might not have killed him. This was the case with Wei Yidao and the hegemon's Saber sect. Lin Yi did not even seriously injure them. He just taught them a lesson. As for the Chinquan sect, Lin Yi really did not care much about it. It was just a son of the head of the sect. Even if it was the head of the sect, it did not matter if he died. This time, the North Island's Blue Cloud sect was going to compete for the top 4. In any case, they had to pull down one of the top 4 so that the North Island's Blue Cloud sect could be promoted. Originally, there was no goal. Now, it was the Chinquan sect. Duan Muyu didn't say anything, but he felt a sweetness in his heart. Lin Yi said that the guy had provoked him, so he deserved to die. Didn't that mean that Duan Muyu's problem was Lin Yi's problem? As for the horror of the Chinquan sect, Duan Muyu did not feel anything. The more time he spent with Lin Yi, the more he felt that Lin Yi was unfathomable. Those magical abilities gave Duan Muyu a strong confidence for no reason. As long as Lin Yi was there was nothing that could not be solved. After hearing Lin Yi's words, Ling Tianyu did not seem to be relieved. He still looked guilty. Lin Yi patted him on the shoulder and said, "Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. I will deal with it." Duanmu, you also tried to persuade him. Ling Tianyu was an open-minded person, so he also let go of his worries. However, the Thousand Blades faction still had to make some preparations, so he immediately took his leave. The residents of Blue Cloud sect and Yiling sect in the North Island were adjacent to each other. Lin Yi went back with Duan Muyu. As for the things here, someone from an inn would naturally take care of them. Lin, he only needed to think about how to face the revenge of Qianquan's sect. Duanmu, you also knew that Lin, he needed to discuss the matter of Qianquan's sect with the people of Blue Cloud sect in the North Island. Therefore, even though he was a little reluctant, he had no choice but to part ways with Lin Yi when they arrived at Yiling's sect. After Lin Yi returned to Green Cloud sect in the North Island, Xianijia immediately came to him. Xianijia had already received the news about what had just happened. After all, the son of the head of Qianquan's sect was killed by Lin Yi. This kind of news spread quite fast. Marshal Granduncle, are you going to take action against Qianquan's sect? Xianijia asked immediately after being asked by Lin Yi to sit down. Lin Yi looked at Xianijia strangely and said, "You don't seem to be worried that Qianquan's sect will take revenge on Blue Cloud sect at all?" "Worry? Why should I worry?" Xianijia was stunned, and then he said with a smile, "Marshal Granduncle, don't joke. With you in Blue Cloud sect, what's there to worry about? Besides, I know what you're thinking. One of the top 4 is the goal of our Blue Cloud sect in the North Island in the Archean Grand meeting this time. Since we want to be promoted, we need one of the top 4 to give us a place." "Haha, you're quite insightful." Lin Yi really thought so he had nothing to hide. Xianijia thought for a while, and then said, "I originally thought that Marshal Granduncle would choose the weaker top 4, such as Enlightenment sect, which ranks 3rd among the top 4. I didn't expect that Marshal Granduncle would directly choose Qianquan's sect, the top of the top 4. Are you trying to make our Blue Cloud sect the top of the top 4? Marshal Granduncle's courage is really not something that I can compare with." Looking at Xianijia's compliment in the last sentence, Lin Yi was secretly amused. Since when did he want to pick the strongest Qianquan sect? It was just that the people from Qianquan's sect jumped out to court death. To Lin Yi, the ranking of the top 4 was really not that useful. It was the same for any one of them. "You said that my target would be the weaker top 4, such as Enlightenment sect, which ranks 3rd among the top 4. Why isn't it the weakest one? The 4th should be the Shangguan clan, right? According to what you said, wouldn't it be better to choose the 4th instead of the 3rd? Lin Yi thought it was a little strange, so he asked casually. Xianijia seemed to have expected that Lin Yi didn't know, so he didn't feel strange at all. He still answered respectfully, "Marshal Granduncle, the Shangguan clan is the backing sect of our Blue Cloud sect in the North Island. No, it should be said that the Shangguan clan is the backing sect of our North Island alliance. Although the Shangguan clan is the weakest among the top 4, it seems that we shouldn't attack them because of this relationship." Backing sect? If the Blue Cloud sect is in trouble, will the Shangguan clan stand up for them? Lin Yi asked curiously. He had been in the ancient underworld for quite some time, but this was the first time he heard that the Shangguan clan had such a relationship with the Blue Cloud sect or the 3 big sects of the North Island. "Uncle Master, you know that the 4 sides of the immemorial mountain range are controlled by the 4 big sects and families. Anyone who wants to get the resources in the immemorial mountain range has to choose one of the 4 big sects and families. Otherwise, it will be extremely difficult to get the resources, let alone the position of the 10 small sects and families. All the sects and families in the immemorial small Jianghu are basically under the command of the 4 big sects and families. It's just that the relationship is a little loose," Xianijia explained patiently. Lin Yi nodded and said, "I see. Then why did the 3 big sects of the North Island choose the Shangguan clan as their backing sect? Geographically speaking, the Shangguan clan isn't the closest to the 3 big sects of the North Island." Xianijia said with a smile, "That's because the 3 big sects of the North Island and the Shangguan clan are related. Thousands of years ago, the Shangguan clan didn't exist. They were originally a family that separated from the soaring sect of the North Island. However, after a long period of development, the Shangguan clan became even more powerful than the three big sects of the North Island. Since they are from the same sect, the three big sects of the North Island naturally chose the Shangguan clan as their backing sect. Linny was shocked. The Shangguan clan really came from the Soaring sect. Wasn't that the same as the Soaring sect of the Heaven Step Island? It seemed like the Shangguan clan and the Shanghai Tianhua were related by blood. If that was the case, for the sake of Shanghai Tianhua, Lin, you should take good care of the Shangguan clan. The Fishman's new book, School Bell CEO Relies on Me, is being serialized. I recommend everyone to read it. Please add the Fishman's official QQ account, Fishman2, and his WeChat account, Urine22, for the latest news and the latest news about the Fishman. Chapter 55:15. Of course, with the Shangguan family status in the immemorial underworld, they would never think that they needed Lin Yi's help. Instead, they would take care of Lin Yi. Speaking of which, when Lin Yi heard about the relationship between the Shangguan family and the three big sects of the North Island, he couldn't help but recall a similar story when he was in the secular world. The Hidden Yu family was originally a branch of the secular Yu family, but after they developed in the hidden world, they became the sect leader of the secular Yu family. This kind of inspiring story was quite similar. Oh, right, Granduncle. I forgot to tell you, the Xuanji sect has now joined the Five Elements sect. So to be exact, only the Soaring Sky sect and our Blue Cloud sect have the Shangguan family as our backing. Xian Ijia had been talking about the three big sects of the North Island for a long time, but he suddenly realized that the situation was a little different now. So he quickly added, the Xuanji sect has joined the Five Elements sect? Why? Linny asked curiously. Didn't they say that the three big sects of the North Island were in the same boat? Why did the Xuanji sect join the Five Elements sect? Xian Ijia sighed and said, you can't blame the Xuanji sect for joining the Five Elements sect. The Shangguan family is just too weak among the four big sections. The Xuanji sect hasn't been able to enter the top 10 small sects and families for a few years now. If it wasn't for the support from the Soaring Sky sect and our Blue Cloud sect, their strength would only continue to decline. Therefore, in order to re-enter the top 10 small sects and families, they have no other choice but to join the Five Elements sect. Linny nodded and said, so that's what happened. Forget it then. The three big sects of the North Island are in the same boat. When our Blue Cloud sect becomes the top 10, the Xuanji sect will come back. That's right, with Granduncle, the Xuanji sect will come back. Xian Ijia nodded hard, then asked, Granduncle Master, although we, the Blue Cloud sect of the North Island, have set our goal as the top 4 sects in the Archean Grand Meeting this time, we still need to choose one of the top 4 sects as our backing before we start. Do you think it's still the Shangguan clan? Let's go with the Shangguan clan. Since they have such a good relationship, there's no need to change it. Lin, he casually made up his mind. Whether the Shangguan clan was weak or not, Lin, he didn't care at all. It was just a name. If he wanted to be strong, the most important thing was his own strength. All right, since Grand Marshal Uncle thinks that the Shangguan clan is good enough, I'll send my name card to the Shangguan clan. Once the Shangguan clan sends someone to inform us, we'll pay them a visit. It's just a formality, just a formality. Xian Ijia felt it was wrong to ask Lin Yi to greet the Shangguan clan, so he quickly added, Lin Yi didn't really care whether he paid a visit or not. He just nodded indifferently and said, you go and arrange it. Yes, Grand Master. I'll take my leave now. Xian Ijia stood up and bowed. He took a few steps back before he turned around and left. Lin Yi couldn't do anything about Xian Ijia's courteous behavior, so he could only let him be. At the same time, Wei Yidao, who had regained his consciousness, had already found the base of the Chinquan sect. He was kneeling on the ground with tears and snot running down his face, distorting the truth. He wanted to get rid of the Tyrant Saber sect and himself. Then he wanted to frame Lin Yi and the others. Sect leader. The young sect leader saw that Duanmu Yu from the Yiling sect was talented, so he went over to chat with him. However, Ling Tianyu from the Thousand Blades sect saw it. Everyone knows that the Thousand Blades sect and the Chinquan sect have a grudge against each other. So Ling Tianyu, this vicious villain, immediately found Lin Yi from the Blue Cloud sect in the North Island. Lin Yi is Duanmu Yu's admirer. Under Ling Tianyu's instigation, he sneakily attacked the young sect leader. The poor young sect leader is a heavenly talent, but he was actually killed by these villains. I wanted to rescue him, but because I was too weak, I didn't even have the chance to do so. Wei Yidao burst into tears as he spoke. His acting skills were absolutely amazing. In fact, Wei Yidao was afraid that his lie would be exposed. If that happened, he and the Tyrant Saber sect would definitely end up worse than Lin Yi and the others. Therefore, his crying was not fake. The person sitting in the middle was the sect leader of the Chinquan sect, Tribulation Immortal. He was an expert at the peak of the late nascent soul realm, and he was the one who led the team to participate in the Archaeozoic Grand Meeting. The highest elder, Immortal Du Nan, did not come to the Archaeozoic Mountains. Instead, he stayed in the sect. The reason why the Chinquan sect was so powerful was not because of Immortal Du Nan's strength, but because there were 7 nascent soul realm experts in the entire Chinquan sect. In addition to Immortal Du Nan, who was at the peak of the late nascent soul realm, the second was Tribulation Immortal, who was at the peak of the late nascent soul realm. In addition, there was 1 late nascent soul realm, 2 middle nascent soul realm, and 2 early nascent soul realm experts. However, before the Archaeozoic Grand Meeting started, Tribulation Immortal's son, an expert at the early nascent soul realm of the Chinquan sect, was inexplicably killed. Hearing Wei Yidao's words, Tribulation Immortal slapped the tea table beside him with a cold face. The entire tea table, along with the teacups and ornaments on it, turned into powder in an instant and fluttered to the ground. Wei Yidao happened to steal a glance at Tribulation Immortal and was immediately frightened. He immediately kept quiet out of fear, but his body could not stop trembling slightly. What a great green cloud sect of the North Island. What a great Lin. How dare you kill my son, who is going through Tribulation Immortal? You really don't know how to write the word death. At this time, Tribulation Immortal almost could not suppress the killing intent in his heart, although he had more than one son, and this person at the early nascent soul realm was not the most outstanding one. His son was still his son. If he did not get angry, he might as well cut his own throat. Wei Yidao, who was kneeling on the ground, was overjoyed. It seemed that Tribulation Immortal's main target was Lin Yi. As for the Tyrant Saber sect, it seemed that they did not want to vent their anger on him. Although Yiling sect and Qianren sect were not mentioned by Tribulation Immortal, this result was already beyond Wei Yidao's imagination. As long as he could get rid of Lin Yi, Yiling sect and Qianren sect would be easy to deal with, not to mention the Chinquan sect. Even the Tyrant Saber sect would not take these 2 sects seriously. Sect leader, please calm down. After all, the Green Cloud sect of the North Island is one of the top 10 sections. Although we, the Chinquan sect, are the leader of the 4 big sects, we still have to abide by the rules set at the beginning. Otherwise, we, the leader of the 4 big sects, will be jointly targeted by the other 3 sects. An elder of the Chinquan sect beside him persuaded in a low voice. The Archaeozoic Grand Meeting was about to begin, and the Chinquan sect could not be disorderly. Tribulation Immortal took a deep breath, nodded, and said, "Yes, although we, the Qiankuan sect, are the leader of the four big sects, we have not reached the point where we can cover the sky with one hand. Since we made the agreement that year, we must abide by it. At worst, after the Archaeozoic Grand Meeting begins, we can target the Green Cloud sect of the North Island. The new book of the Fishman, CEO Campus Bell Relies on Me, is being serialized. I recommend you to read it. Please add Fishman's QQ Guru public account. Fishman2, WeChat public account, 22, all kinds of latest news, Fishman's latest news, to be continued. Chapter 55:16. Wei Yidao didn't dare to interrupt, but he couldn't help feeling disappointed. He had heard about the agreement mentioned by Tribulation Jinren. It seemed to be an agreement between the four big sects and families. Anyone who wanted to attack the 10 small sects and families of the four big sects and families had to get the consent of the four big sects and families. Otherwise, the four big sects would be in chaos, and the so-called backing sects would only exist in name. If the Qiankuan sect wanted to attack the Blue Cloud sect, they had to get the consent of the backing sections. Otherwise, they would violate the rule and be attacked by the other three sects and families. Although the Qiankuan sect was stronger than the other three big sects, if the other three big sects joined hands, they would be able to crush the Qiankuan sect. Because of this, the balance of power in the small, archaic Jianghu could be maintained. Someone go and find out which backing sect the Blue Cloud sect is this year. Tribulation, Jinren didn't lose his mind. He immediately sent someone to investigate the situation of the Blue Cloud sect. According to the usual practice, the Green Cloud sect of the North Island should be supported by the Shangguan family. It was the weakest among the four big sects, with only 3 nascent soul cultivators, which barely met the standard of the four big sections. If the Green Cloud sect of the North Island was still under the Shangguan family, Tribulation Jinren felt that he might be able to get permission from the Shangguan family when he proposed to deal with the Green Cloud sect of the North Island. But if the Blue Cloud sect of the North Island switched to a powerful sect like the Five Elements sect, like the Xuanji sect of the North Island, which was only slightly inferior to the Qiankuan sect, they would never agree to the request of the Qiankuan sect. A disciple of the Qiankuan sect outside the door answered and ran out quickly. It wasn't a secret, so he could get the news by asking around. Soon, the disciple came back to report. Sect leader, the North Island's Blue Cloud sect hasn't paid a visit to the pier yet, so they don't have a backer yet. However, I heard that the North Island's Blue Cloud sect has already sent a visit card to the Shangguan clan. I think they have chosen the Shangguan clan as their backer this year. This disciple was very clear. He even knew that Xian Ijia had just sent someone to the Shangguan family to send a visiting card. Great. That's great. Tribulation crossing, Jinren suddenly opened his eyes, sneered, and said, "Spread the news for me right now. The Blue Cloud sect of the North Island killed my son. The Shangguan family? I'd like to see if you dare to accept the North Island Blue Cloud sect." If the North Island's Blue Cloud sect had already paid their respects and become a disciple of the Shangguan family, then maybe the Shangguan family would protect the North Island's Blue Cloud sect for the sake of their reputation. But since the North Island's Blue Cloud sect was not yet a disciple of the Shangguan family, then after hearing the news released by the Qiankuan sect, they would have to carefully consider whether to accept the North Island's Blue Cloud sect or not. Was it worth it for the Shangguan clan to offend the Qiankuan sect, the leader of the four big sects, just for the Blue Cloud sect? Not to mention the Shangguan clan. Even if the Five Elements sect got the news, they might not accept the trouble of the Blue Cloud sect from the North Island, because it was obvious that they were the enemy of the Qiankuan sect. Sect leader is brilliant. As long as we spread the news, I guess the other 3 sects will not deliberately disrespect our Qiankuan sect. At that time, The Green Cloud sect of the North Island will not even have a sect to rely on. It will be a piece of cake to kill them. The elder who tried to persuade Jinren Crossing Calamity agreed with his method very much, and he sent Wei Yidao to help. Wei Yidao was overjoyed. He immediately thanked Jinren Crossing Calamity and left. He had been prepared for the Tyrant Saber sect to vent their anger on them, but he did not expect that Lin Yi was so powerful that he directly took all the blame. In fact, Wei Yidao did not understand that the Qinkuan sect completely targeted Lin Yi because they had complete information about Lin Yi. They knew that Lin Yi was the pillar of the Blue Cloud sect of the North Island. If they did not get rid of Lin Yi, even if the Blue Cloud sect of the North Island didn't do anything this time, they would definitely have a chance to soar next time. Although the Blue Cloud sect of the North Island might not be able to threaten the position of the Qinkuan sect, the Qinkuan sect did not want to easily change the current power structure. They originally had the intention of suppressing the Blue Cloud sect of the North Island. Now, that such a thing had happened, if they did not take the opportunity to target the Blue Cloud sect of the North Island, they would never be able to rise again. At the same time, the Shangguan family had received the visiting card from the Blue Cloud sect of the North Island, and they agreed to meet the people from the Blue Cloud sect of the North Island. However, when the people from the Blue Cloud sect went back to report, the news spread by the Qinkuan sect also reached the Shangguan family. For a moment, the expression of the current family leader of the Shangguan family changed. Should he meet the Blue Cloud sect of the North Island or not? Shangguan Qingyun walked back and forth with his hands behind his back. As the current family leader of the Shangguan family, it was really difficult for him to make a decision about the Blue Cloud sect of the North Island. Based on the relationship between the Shangguan family and the Blue Cloud sect of the North Island, they should accept the Blue Cloud sect of the North Island. After all, they had already accepted the visiting card. However, offending the Qinkuan sect for the Blue Cloud sect of the North Island was not the result that Shangguan Qingyun wanted to see. No, I have to ask my father for his opinion on this matter. Shangguan Qingyun muttered. In the end, he decided to pass this burden to his father, the supreme elder of the Shangguan family, Shangguan Feishing. After making the decision, Shangguan Qingyun immediately went to meet his father. This time, the Shangguan family had mobilized the entire Shangguan family for the distant ancient grand meeting, and all of their high-end combat power had come. Therefore, it was quite easy for Shangguan Qingyun to meet Shangguan Feishing. Father, about the Blue Cloud sect of the North Island. Shangguan Qingyun couldn't wait to speak before he entered the room. Calm down. Shangguan Feishing calmly interrupted Shangguan Qingyun's words. At this moment, he was riding a brush beside the desk. Although he knew that his son was here, he had no intention of raising his head. Shangguan Qingyun knew that his father didn't like to be interrupted when he was writing, so he could only shut his mouth in embarrassment. After Shangguan Feishing finished writing, he put down the brush in his hand, raised his head, and said unhappily, "You're already so old. Why are you still so impatient? You have to be as calm as a mountain when you encounter problems. The more you panic, the more mistakes you'll make." Yes, I understand. Shangguan Qingyun hurriedly bowed to accept the advice. In the Shangguan family, the words of the old master were everything. Although Shangguan Qingyun was the current family master, important decisions still required Shangguan Feishing's approval. Tell me, what happened to the Blue Cloud sect of the North Island? Did they switch to the other 4 big sects, like the Xuanji sect? Shangguan Feishing's tone was calm, but Shangguan Qingyun felt that there was a hint of melancholy in it. The Shangguan family had been weak for a long time, and even the Xuanji sect, which they had always supported, had switched to the 5 Elements sect. If the Blue Cloud sect of the North Island did the same, then the Shangguan family would indeed have no say among the 4 big sections. The Fishman's new book, School Bell CEO Relies on Me, is being serialized. I recommend everyone to read it. Please add the Fishman's QQ Guru Public ID, Fishman 2, WeChat Public ID 22, for all the latest news and updates, and the latest news about the Fishman. Chapter 55:17. Genius 1 second. Remember, if you want to go? Sure, Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. From this point of view, the Shangguan family should accept the Green Cloud sect from the North Island. However, when he thought that he would have to fall out with the Qianquan sect because of this, Shangguan Qingyun felt that he had lost his courage. Hence, he could only clench his teeth and say, "It's not like that. The Green Cloud sect from the North Island has sent an invitation card." When Shangguan Feishing heard this, his expression relaxed slightly. He then said nonchalantly, "Since that's the case, do you have any other questions? The problem is that Lin Yi from the Green Cloud faction on the North Island killed the son of the Tribulation Master of the Qianquan faction. The Qianquan sect has already spread the news." Shangguan Qingyun did not make it clear. He only mentioned it briefly. He believed that his father would understand. As expected, after Shangguan Feishing frowned slightly, he nodded lightly and said, "Lin Yi, I know this person. He is the martial granduncle who suddenly appeared in the North Island's Blue Cloud sect. Originally, our Shangguan clan should have befriended this man. Originally, it should be, then what about now? It shouldn't be, right?" Shangguan Qingyun nodded his head in understanding. He roughly understood what his father meant. Although his father had just felt sorry for the fact that Xuanji sect had turned to his family, it seemed a little unkind to completely give up the Blue Cloud sect in the North Island now. However, Shangguan Qingyun quite agreed with this approach. "Let's play it by ear." Shangguan Feishing picked up the weasel hair brush on the brush rack again, dipped it in the thick ink, and continued to write. This also meant that the conversation was over. Shangguan Qingyun respectfully took his leave, thinking about how to adapt to the situation. Shangguan Feishing's intention was quite obvious. In order to not offend the Qianquan sect, he would give up on accepting the Blue Cloud sect from the North Island. He had no other choice, as the Shangguan family was too weak. The Qianquan sect had a total of 7 nascent soul realm cultivators. All right, 1 had died just now, so there were still 6 left. However, the Shangguan clan only had 3 nascent soul realm cultivators in total, and this was already the lowest number of the 4 big clans. If they had less than 3 nascent soul realm cultivators, they would be kicked out of the 4 big clans at any time. Blue Cloud sect of the North Island is really troublesome. Shangguan Qingyun whispered to himself. If they hadn't received the visiting card and knew about the Qianquan sect, the Shangguan clan wouldn't have accepted the visiting card at all. Now that they had agreed to meet the Blue Cloud sect of the North Island, it wouldn't make sense for them not to meet them. In that case, he could only meet them once and then casually send them away. Shangguan Qingyun made up his mind. He immediately waved his hand at a Shangguan clan disciple that was passing by and said, "You come here." "Patriarch, what instructions do you have for this disciple?" That disciple was a disciple from a branch family of the Shangguan clan. Normally, he wouldn't have the chance to talk to Shangguan Qingyun. Now that he was suddenly summoned by Shangguan Qingyun, he immediately ran over. "You are the 6th son of the 7th branch, right?" Shangguan Qingyun thought for a while and asked uncertainly. After all, he was a disciple of a branch family and had only seen it occasionally. It was already good enough that he could remember this. Yes, Master, you can just call me Little Six." Little Six was overjoyed. He didn't expect the patriarch to be able to know his family ranking. Although he didn't know his full name, it was still not an easy feat, Little six, I see. In a while, the people from the North Island's Blue Cloud sect will come to visit us. They want our Shangguan clan to be their backing. I have some matters to attend to, and it's not convenient for me to meet them. You can just find a reason to send them away. Shangguan Qin Yun thought that it wasn't suitable for him to go out, so he asked someone to send away the people from the North Island's Blue Cloud sect. However, he didn't want to reject them too obviously. After this matter was over, it would be best if he could pull the North Island's Blue Cloud sect back to the Shangguan clan. After all, the Shangguan clan was already the weakest of the four big sections. If they lost the Blue Cloud sect after the Xuanji sect, then the Shangguan clan would really lose their right to speak. However, Shangguan Qin Yun didn't consider that when the Blue Cloud sect needed the Shangguan clan chose to stand by and do nothing. After this matter was over, what reason would the Blue Cloud sect have to return to the Shangguan clan? Furthermore, with the Blue Cloud sect as an example, which other sect would be willing to tie themselves to the Shangguan clan, a clan without any guts? Xiao Liuzi understands. Xiao Liuzi is definitely the right person to handle such a small matter. Master, just look at my performance. Xiao Liuzi immediately patted his chest. It was a rare opportunity to be able to perform in front of the master. No matter what, he had to seize it. As they were talking, a disciple came to report, "Master, the people from the North Island's Blue Cloud sect are here." So fast, Shangguan Qingyun was a little surprised. The people from the North Island's Blue Cloud sect had arrived not long after the person who sent the visiting card left. It seemed like the people from the Blue Cloud sect were anxious. They hoped to immediately rely on the Shangguan clan so that the Qinkuan sect couldn't attack the Blue Cloud sect. In fact, Shangguan Qingyun was overthinking. Lin Yi and Xian Ijia didn't care about the Qinkuan sect at all. They wanted to use the Blue Cloud sect as a stepping stone to rise to the top. What was there to be afraid of? The reason why they came so quickly was only because the Blue Cloud sect's base was separated from the Shangguan clan by the Soaring Gate. Xiao Liuzi immediately cupped his fists and said in high spirits, "Master, I'll go and send them away. I'll come back soon to report to you." Shangguan Qin Yun wanted to say that Xiao Liuzi's reason was a little euphemistic, but after thinking about it, there was no need to specifically explain it. Anyway, the people who came were not the direct descendants of the Shangguan clan. Even if the Blue Cloud sect was dissatisfied when they could escape from the Qinkuan sect, he, as the Shangguan clan's master, would come forward personally. Then everything could be salvaged. Therefore, Shangguan Qin Yun didn't say much. He just waved his hand and asked Xiao Liuzi to represent the Shangguan clan to meet the people from the North Island's Blue Cloud sect. In the guest hall, Lin Yi and Xian Ijia were both there. Although the Shangguan clan was the weakest among the four big families, Lin Yi thought that he should take care of the Shangguan clan for the sake that they were from the same bloodline as Shanghai Tianhua. Therefore, he came to talk to the Shangguan clan's master personally. When the Archaeozoic Grand Meeting was held, the two sides should cooperate better. If the people from the Shangguan clan didn't know what was going on and accidentally hurt them, it wouldn't be fun if they killed two of the four big families at once. That's right, Lin Yi put both sides on the same level. To be honest, he had already overestimated the Shangguan clan. As for the backing sect, it was just a name. When the North Island's Blue Cloud sect became the leader of the four big families, it would be hard to say which sect would be the backing sect. Chapter 55:18. Genius 1 second. Remember, if you want to go, Shua Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. Not only that, this Jindan stage disciple even had a superior look on his face. He pointed his nostrils at Lin Yi and said, "You can go back." Our family master is quite busy and has no time to see you today. Lin Yi was slightly startled. Then his eyes became unfathomable. With his divine sense, he could clearly sense that there were two nascent soul realm cultivators not far behind this golden core realm disciple. One was at the late nascent soul realm, and the other was at the mid-nascent soul realm. Obviously, one of them was the master of the Shangguan clan. So, what was the Shangguan clan trying to achieve by doing this? Xian Ijia frowned slightly and said, Shangguan family had just asked our Jadian sect disciples to inform us that we can come and pay our respects. Why is there no time now? Xian Ijia would never say something like that based on his temper in the past. However, Xian Ijia was no longer the ignorant person he used to be. Moreover, he had been with Lin Yi for a long time. Naturally, he had developed a spirit of arrogance. If it wasn't for the Shangguan family, Xian Ijia would not have cared about them at all. Is it your place to, but in the matters of our patriarch, why don't you take a look at yourself first? If it wasn't for the fact that your Qin Yun sect has always been willing to be our Shangguan family's dog, you wouldn't even have the right to enter this door. Xiaolu had completely misunderstood Shang Guanqinyun's meaning. Originally, Shang Guanqinyun only wanted him to find a reason to send the people from Green Cloud sect away, but this fellow thought that Shang Guanqinyun did not want to accept Green Cloud sect at all, so he acted pretentiously, offending Green Cloud sect as much as he could, not to mention Xian Ijia. Even Shang Guanqinyun, who was secretly following behind to see what was going on, had a dark expression on his face. He thought to himself, no wonder this guy is from a branch family. If there's such a person in the main family, the Shangguan family would have been wiped out long ago. What did you say? Xian Ijia flew into a rage and stood up abruptly. However, before he could do anything, Lin Yi slapped him across the face. Love, go. Small, say, neck couraging flame 8 trigrams palm. Since he was from the Shangguan clan, Lin Yi didn't kill him. He just wanted to teach him a lesson. The wildfire 8 trigram palm was just a piece of cake for a small fry like him. Without any suspense, Xiaolu was sent flying away. Don't waste your breath on him. This kind of barking dog, just send it flying, Lin Yi said lightly. He retracted his palm and picked up the teacup next to him. He fiddled with it twice and leisurely took a sip. Xian Ijia secretly wiped off the cold sweat on his forehead. He thought to himself, I thought I knew Grand Uncle Master's style very well, but I didn't know him well enough. Yes, Grand Uncle, I'll keep that in mind, Xian Ijia answered, feeling relieved. In the past, no one from the Blue Cloud sect would dare to be disrespectful to the Shangguan family. No matter how weak the Shangguan family was, they were still one of the big four. Any nascent soul cultivator would be stronger than the Blue Cloud sect. Shang Guanqinyun was extremely angry at this moment. Although Xiaolu was indeed rude, he still represented the Shangguan family. How dare Lin Yi turn against him and send him flying with a slap? What was the Blue Cloud sect trying to do? Could the people from the Reliance sect be beaten up as they pleased? The Shangguan family was indeed weak. The Qinkuan sect and the Five Elements sect basically knew Lin Yi quite well. Only the Shangguan family's information about Lin Yi was still at the time when he first entered the ancient Jianghu, the Blue Cloud sect of the North Island, brought back a Grand Uncle Master with a primordial spirit from the secular world. Lu Yun, go and teach these arrogant bastards a lesson. How dare they fight in our Shangguan family? Shang Guanqinyun turned around and whispered to the middle stage nascent soul realm elder, Shangguan Luyun, who was following him. Shangguan Luyun also heard that the people from the Blue Cloud sect were here, so he wanted to come and see them. However, after meeting Shangguan Qinyun, he knew the family's decision, so he simply followed Shangguan Qinyun to see the situation. Now that Shangguan Qingyun had spoken, Shangguan Luoyun was naturally duty-bound to do it. He immediately agreed and appeared in the living room. "How dare you? How dare you fight with the people of the Shangguan family in our place? Do you really think that the Shangguan family can be bullied by others? Kneel down and admit your guilt," Shangguan Luoyun shouted, and at the same time he revealed his momentum of the middle stage, nascent soul realm. In Shangguan Luoyun's view, after the Blue Cloud sect of the North Island lost Qinzhou, they would not even be qualified to be one of the top 10. Otherwise, they would not let a person at the early stage of Gold Core be the leader. As for Lin Yi, he seemed to have hidden his strength. Although he showed that he was at the peak of Foundation establishment, he should have the strength of the nascent soul realm. However, he was at most at the peak of the early stage of nascent soul. Therefore, the momentum of the middle stage nascent soul realm was enough to oppress Lin Yi and Xian Yijia. He did not need to make a move. He could directly use his momentum to make the two beg for mercy. This was the way that the Shangguan family should do. However, Shangguan Luoyun did not expect that under the pressure of his middle stage nascent soul realm, even the leader of the early stage Gold Core realm, Xian Yijia, did not show any discomfort, let alone Lin Yi, who was still drinking tea leisurely. Not only that, Xian Yijia, who was initially smiling, suddenly turned cold after Shangguan Luoyun revealed his power. He straightened his back, and his surging aura pushed back Shangguan Luoyun's aura like a monstrous tide, suppressing Shangguan Luoyun. Late-stage nascent soul. Shangguan Luoyun was suddenly dumbfounded. What was going on? Where was the early stage of Gold Core? Even if nascent soul was mistaken as Gold Core, it was still the early stage of nascent soul. Late-stage nascent soul. What the hell was that? Lin Yi put down the teacup in his hand and directly made a combination punch of Soul Vortex and Frenzy Fire 8 Trigram Palm. While Shangguan Luoyun's divine sense was unstable, he slapped him and sent him flying. He then said calmly, "I told you just now. Did you forget it again? Don't show off your momentum. Just send him flying. Do you want him to kneel down and admit his guilt? You can't be so ruthless. You can't be so ruthless." "Yes, Granduncle," Xian Yijia agreed, and secretly wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. He could not tell whether he was ruthless or Granduncle was ruthless. After all, Shangguan Luoyun was a middle-stage, nascent soul realm master, and Lin Yi did not have any intention to kill him. Therefore, the ordinary Soul Vortex and Frenzy Fire 8 Trigram Palm did not cause much harm to Shangguan Luoyun. After being sent flying, Shangguan Luoyun immediately stabilized his body. Although he was a little dirty, at least he was not as miserable as Xiaoluzi. Chapter 55:19. Then Lin Yi said slowly, "We, the Green Cloud sect of the North Island, came to pay our respects to the Shangguan clan, not because we think highly of the Shangguan clan, but because the Shangguan clan and the three big sects of the North Island are of the same lineage. It's all because of this relationship. Do you really think that the Green Cloud sect is asking the four weakest big sects to be their backing? I really don't know where you get your confidence from." His words were quite rude. Not only did Shangguan Luoyun's face turn red, but even Shangguan Qingyun, who was hiding in the dark, was also secretly embarrassed. However, what Shangguan Qingyun cared more about was the strength that Lin Yi had shown. It wasn't a big deal to be able to send Xiaoluzi flying with a slap, but to be able to send Shangguan Luoyun flying with a slap, it wasn't simple no matter how he looked at it. Shangguan Qingyun knew that it would be difficult for him to do it so easily. In other words, this Lin Yi had at least the strength of the late nascent soul realm, or even higher. He might have reached the peak of the late nascent soul realm. Since when did the Green Cloud sect of the North Island have such powerful strength? At this moment, Shangguan Qingyun was a little hesitant. Judging from the strength that the Green Cloud sect of the North Island had shown, although it was far inferior to the Qianquan sect, it was already an outstanding existence among the 10 small sects. If the Green Cloud sect had another nascent soul realm cultivator, it would be qualified to fight for a place in the top 4 big sections. With such strength, even if they offended the Qianquan sect, they might not be destroyed. If the Shangguan clan intervened, they could protect the Green Cloud sect. With the Green Cloud sect as the Shangguan clan support, the Shangguan clan would definitely have more say among the top 4 big sects in the future. The most important thing was that Lin Yi didn't fear the Shangguan clan at all. Thinking about it, it made sense. Lin Yi even killed the son of the Qianquan sect's leader without hesitation. How could he have any fear for the Shangguan clan? Why didn't he understand this before? However, it was not too late now. From this point, it could be inferred that Lin Yi should have some powerful trump card. In a flash, Shangguan Qingyun had already thought through the pros and cons. He immediately laughed and walked out. He cupped his fists and said, "My friends from the Green Cloud sect are here. I couldn't get away from some matters just now, so I asked my disciple to entertain the 2 of you. Sorry for the neglect." After saying that, he seemed to notice that the atmosphere in the living room was not right. He frowned and asked, "What's going on?" Lin Yi didn't reply, and just watched Shangguan Qingyun's act with a faint smile. He had been watching from the outside just now, so he didn't know what was going on. Who knows? Patriarch. Shangguan Luyun was about to speak when he was interrupted by Shangguan Qingyun's glare. "Shut up." Shangguan Qingyun's face was filled with anger. He pointed at Shangguan Luyun and said, Luyun, you are an elder of the Shangguan clan. How could you offend a guest? And Zia Luzi, don't you know that guests are guests, and you must welcome them with a smile? Don't tell me that the friends from the Green Cloud sect came here to make trouble. Looking at you, I know the problem must be with you. Shangguan Luyun and Zia Luzi felt wronged. However, the patriarch had made it clear that he wanted to push them out as scapegoats. They wouldn't be insensible enough to go against the patriarch. Now, they could only bear the blame. What should I say to you? Shangguan Qingyun looked distressed. After pointing at Shangguan Luyun, he pointed at Zia Luzi and then at Shangguan Luyun. Have you forgotten that I have always said that the Shangguan clan comes from the 3 major sects of the North Island? We and the 3 major sects of the North Island are brother sects of the same origin. We are of the same breadth and branches, and we advance and retreat together. Why don't you listen to me? Lin Yi picked up the teacup again and took a sip. He didn't want to talk at the moment, so he just drank tea and watched the show. After Shangguan Qingyun finished his performance, he should get to the point. Judging from Shangguan Qingyun's attitude, today's matter should be over. Lin Yi didn't want to make things too difficult for the Shangguan clan. After all, he had to give face to Shanghai Tianhua, not to mention the relationship with the Green Cloud sect. After reprimanding the 2 scapegoats, Shangguan Qingyun turned to Lin Yi and Xian Ijia with a smile and said, "My 2 friends, please don't mind them. These 2 guys probably have some complaints about the 3 major sects of the North Island because Xuanji sect switched to 5 Elements sect. So they vented their dissatisfaction on the Green Cloud sect. After all, the 3 major sects of the North Island have always been a trinity. My 2 friends, please forgive them." He was really good at shifting the blame. Lin Yi didn't bother to expose him, so he just drank his tea. Seeing that Lin Yi didn't respond, Xian Ijia had to speak up himself. After all, the current leader of the Green Cloud sect was Xian Ijia. Since the patriarch of the Shangguan clan had already said something good, he couldn't go too far. Therefore, Xianijia and Shangguan Qingyun began to chat casually. However, they had a tacit understanding not to mention the sect they relied on for the time being. Xianijia still didn't know what Linny was thinking, so he naturally didn't dare to make a decision on his own. Shangguan Qingyun was the same. Although he already had the intention to rope in the Green Cloud sect, this matter was of great importance. After all, the decision still needed to be made by the old master. Since there was such a big commotion, Shangguan Qingyun knew that the old master would definitely come. However, the old master would never step out of the study room before he finished his calligraphy. Therefore, he could only delay it for now and wait for the old master to finish his calligraphy. Shangguan Qingyun felt that it was quite good for him to be able to do what Shangguan Feishing said. Fortunately, Xianijia was very cooperative and didn't put Shangguan Qingyun in a difficult position. Finally, when Lin Yi finished his second cup of tea out of boredom, Shangguan Feishing appeared. He was still holding the calligraphy that he had just finished. After he came in, he handed it to Shangguan Luyun, who had a black face and a black walk on his back, and said, "Useless thing, frame the calligraphy when it's dry." Shangguan Luyun didn't dare to refute. He quickly took it and said, "Yes, Grand Supreme Elder." Seeing Shangguan Feishing coming in, Shangguan Qingyun and Xianijia stood up to welcome the pillar of the Shangguan family. Only Lin Yi was still sitting calmly. He even signaled the disciple who was serving him to refill his teacup. Shangguan Feishing frowned at Lin Yi's attitude, his face expressionless. "Master Xian, your Green Cloud sect is really too arrogant now. It seems like our Shangguan house will have to rely on your Green Cloud sect in the future." Fishman's new book, School Beauty CEO Relies on Me, is currently being serialized. I recommend it to everyone. Please add the Fishman's official QQ account, Fishman2, and WeChat official Urine22 for the latest news and the latest news about the Fishman. Chapter 55:20. Xianijia was slightly stunned. He did not expect Lin Yi to ignore Shangguan Feishing like this. However, Xianijia thought about Lin Yi's identity and realized that he did not need to take Lin Yi seriously. As a staunch supporter of Lin Yi, Xianijia immediately replied, "Senior Shangguan, you're exaggerating. However, based on our Grand Master's seniority, it's fine for Senior Shangguan to call him Grand Master. Don't you think it's a bit too much to say that Grand Master is arrogant?" Shangguan Feishing was so angry that he laughed. "What a joke! Don't think that I don't know that you brought back a strange primordial spirit from the secular world and claimed that he was the Grand Master of the Azure Cloud sect. It's fine if the Azure Cloud sect wants to mess around, but now you want me to call him Grand Master too? Do you really think that the Azure Cloud sect is the best in the world?" Lin Yi suddenly looked up at Shangguan Feishing and said calmly, "It's not up to you to decide whether the Azure Cloud sect is the best in the world. As for whether the Shangguan clan is going to rely on the Azure Cloud sect in the future, let's not talk about it for now. Let's talk about one thing now. What does the Shangguan clan want in this archaic grand meeting?" After a short pause, Lin Yi continued in a serious tone, "The Shangguan clan and the Azure Cloud sect are enemies, friends?" Lin Yi's words revealed his unquestionable confidence. To be an enemy or a friend, there was only one choice. And to Lin Yi, these two didn't seem to be any different. Shangguan Feishing was furious, but he was shrewd enough to not fall out with Lin Yi on the spot. He immediately laughed and avoided Lin Yi's question. Instead, he brought the topic back to the Grand Master's seniority. "I've always said that the Shangguan clan and the three big sects of the Northern Island are of the same origin. If you can prove that you're the real Grand Master of the Blue Cloud sect, then I'll call you Grand Master. But if you can't prove it, then I won't waste my breath on a fake like you." Shangguan Feishing sat down, squinted at Lin Yi, and said coldly. Lin Yi raised his eyebrows. According to his previous temperament, Shangguan Feishing's words were equivalent to answering Lin Yi's question. From now on, the Shangguan clan and Jadian were enemies and not friends. However, when he thought about the help that Shanghai Tianhua had given him on Heaven Stage Island, Lin Yi was patient and did not leave in a huff. Forget it. Since you want evidence, I'll give you one. Lin Yi pointed at the calligraphy in Shangguan Liuyun's hand and said, If I'm not mistaken, what you wrote just now should be the Shangguan clan's mental cultivation method, right? Shangguan Feishing was slightly startled. The Shangguan clan's cultivation technique was something that ordinary people would never know. Although the Shangguan clan had the habit of using their cultivation technique as a form of calligraphy, even if an outsider were to see it, apart from the direct descendants of the Shangguan clan, no one would be able to understand it. For Lin Yi to be able to say that the calligraphy was the Shangguan clan's mental cultivation method, it showed that he had a good eye. But just this alone was far from enough to prove that Lin Yi was the Grandmaster of the Blue Cloud sect. You're quite knowledgeable, but this isn't a secret. Your Blue Cloud sect should have some books about this. Don't tell me you're thinking of using this to prove your identity as a senior. Shangguan Feishing had a mocking smile on his face, hiding his true thoughts. Lin Yi smiled and said, Don't worry. What I want to say is your calligraphy is not bad, but it's a pity that you didn't complete it. This time, Shangguan Feishing was really shocked. Outsiders wouldn't be able to understand the Shangguan clan's mental cultivation method, so even if they saw it, they wouldn't know that what he had written down was only a fragment of the Shangguan clan's mental cultivation method. Furthermore, this was only the last part of the incomplete manual. Outsiders would only think that it was a few profound sentences and wouldn't be able to understand the profound meaning behind it. If Lin Yi was completely relying on guessing, then his observation and deduction skills had reached an astonishing level. But what if Lin Yi wasn't relying on guessing? This thought only flashed past his mind, but it quickly grew like weeds in spring. Shangguan Feishing couldn't get rid of this thought, no matter how hard he tried. Lin Yi pointed at Shangguan Liuyun and said, What's your name? Spread out your words. Don't shake them. Shangguan Liuyun immediately felt extremely humiliated. However, after being slapped by Lin Yi, he didn't dare to disobey Lin Yi. He could only glare at Lin Yi, then turn his head away and pretended to spread out his words unintentionally. Lin Yi couldn't be bothered with Shangguan Liuyun's little tricks. He turned to Shangguan Feishing and said, This last sentence is not complete. If I'm not wrong, your Shangguan clan's mental cultivation method was lost here, right? Otherwise, you would have at least finished writing this sentence. Shangguan Feishing was shocked again. What Lin Yi said was absolutely correct. The mental cultivation method of the Shangguan clan was incomplete from here. This was the Shangguan clan's secret, and only the direct descendants of the Shangguan clan would know about it. To be honest, at this moment, Shangguan Feishing had begun to hope that Lin Yi was really the primordial spirit of the Shangguan clan. If Lin Yi could help the Shangguan clan perfect their mental cultivation method, it would be more valuable than anything else. By then, Shangguan Feishing could even call Lin Yi ancestor, let alone grandmaster. This sentence was only half written. It's not very impressive that you could see through it. Shangguan Feishing calmed himself down and maintained a calm expression on his face. Fu Yun's Chi Thunder Strike consumes the Nangong clan's tool principle. Lin Yi didn't answer Shangguan Feishing. Instead, he muttered something out of the blue. Xianijia was completely confused and didn't understand what Lin Yi was saying at all. However, Shangguan Feishing's body shook violently. He stood up abruptly with a face full of disbelief. He then fell into deep thought. Shangguan Qing Yin also felt a little dizzy. Others might not understand what Linny was saying, but he was different. Shangguan Qing Yin could be said to have memorized the Shangguan clan's mental cultivation method backwards. Even if he couldn't recite it, he still had the words that his father had just written for him. The last sentence only had 5 words: Fuyun's Chi Thunder Falls. Could it be that the sentence that Lin Yi recited was the first sentence of the missing part of the mental cultivation method of the Shangguan clan? Thinking of this, Shangguan Qingyun immediately said to the disciple who was serving him, "There's nothing for you to do here. Bring little Six to heal his wounds. Without my order, no one is allowed to come here." "Yes, master." The disciple quickly went up to support little Six and walked out quickly. This matter was no longer something they could participate in. If they didn't leave immediately, they might be targeted in the future. The Fishman's new book, School Bell CEO Relies on Me, is being serialized. I recommend everyone to read it. Please add the Fishman's official QQ account, Fishman2, and WeChat official Urine22 for the latest news and the latest news about the Fishman. Chapter 55:21. After Shangguan Qingyun and the others left, he let out a sigh of relief. He would have to rely on Shangguan Feishing to verify whether Lin Yi's recitation was true or not. Shangguan Qingyun didn't have the ability to do so, but no matter what, he had to keep everything that happened here a secret from now on. Why did Shangguan Feishing like to practice his family's mental cultivation method? Apart from it being a habit of the Shangguan family, the most important reason was that Shangguan Feishing wanted to deduce the missing mental cultivation method from the calligraphy. Only by doing so could the Shangguan family develop further. As for the other members of the Shangguan family, they were just following the Supreme Elder's footsteps and flattering him. They didn't understand the deeper meaning behind it. Unfortunately, the progress in this area had been stagnant for a long time. It wasn't that Shangguan Feishing didn't deduce some directions, but every time he delved deeper, he would find all sorts of problems, and he would end up back at square one. However, what Lin Yi recited was different. Shangguan Feishing was very experienced in deducing, so he could confirm that the second half of Lin Yi's mental cultivation method was completely correct after a slight deduction. Shangguan Feishing had tried many times to deduce the second half of the mental cultivation method, but every single word of the Shangguan family's mental cultivation method had an extremely important meaning. Perhaps Shangguan Feishing had deduced one word correctly, but if there was a problem with the second word, then he would have to start all over again. So it's like this. It's simply too amazing. Shangguan Feishing's expression kept changing, and he kept muttering to himself. It was obvious that he was immersed in Lin Yi's mental cultivation method, unable to extricate himself from it. Not only that, Shangguan Feishing had even started circulating his energy to verify the authenticity of the mental cultivation method. Lin Yi didn't bother him. It didn't matter if he told them half of the mental cultivation method. After all, the Shangguan family's mental cultivation method was still missing at least a quarter of it. The fact that they were able to become one of the 4 great sects and families with only 3/4 of the mental cultivation method was enough to show how powerful this mental cultivation method was. It was no wonder that on Heaven Stage Island, Shanghai Tianhua was one of the few giants. His fame spread all over Heaven Stage Island, and was definitely not limited to the North Island. Actually, Lin Yi didn't know that when the Shangguan clan became one of the 4 big clans, they already had 3 nascent soul realm cultivators. After so many years, they still had 3 nascent soul realm cultivators. As for the other 4 big clans, they would at least have 1 or 2 more nascent soul realm cultivators, especially the Qinquan sect. It was because the Shangguan clan's core mental cultivation technique was missing a quarter of the most important part. If the Shangguan clan's cultivation technique was complete, they might have already dominated the entire underworld, and they wouldn't be the weakest among the four big clans. After a short while, Shangguan Feishing finally stopped. When he looked at Lin Yi again, his eyes were filled with passion. "Fellow Taoist Lin, where did you see this saying?" Although Shangguan Feishing didn't call Lin Yi martial uncle, there was an obvious change in his tone. At the very least, there was a hint of humility in his tone. Lin Yi curled his lips and thought to himself, "Would I tell you that I saw this on Heaven Stage Island? Would I tell you that it was the complete mental cultivation technique personally written by Shanghai Tianhua, and that it was picked out by his obedient granddaughter and given to me? Elder Shangguan, you don't need to know where I got this mnemonic chant. All you need to know is that this mnemonic chant isn't fake." Lin Yi chuckled and continued, "Could it be that Elder Shangguan thinks that this half of the mnemonic chant isn't enough, and you want the remaining quarter of the mental cultivation technique?" Upon hearing this, Shangguan Feishing almost knelt down. He didn't know how much of his family's mental cultivation technique was missing, but he estimated that it was at least a tenth of it. He didn't expect Lin Yi to say that there was still a quarter of it missing. To be honest, Shangguan Feishing really wanted to call Lin Yi his ancestor. As long as he could obtain the complete mental cultivation technique, the Shangguan family's nascent soul realm would experience a surge. By then, not only would they be the leader of the four great families, they would even have no problem dominating the ancient martial world. Of course, if Lin Yi had the complete mental cultivation technique, the Shangguan family wouldn't be able to avoid Lin Yi and his Emerald Cloud sect if they wanted to dominate the ancient martial world. No matter what, this was a rare opportunity for the Shangguan family. If they didn't seize it, they would be punished by the heavens. Shangguan Feishing took a deep breath and squeezed out a smile that he thought was the most sincere. "Fellow Taoist Lin, let's talk about the Emerald Cloud sect first. Speaking of which, the Emerald Cloud sect and our Shangguan family have always been of the same origin. So, this time, when the Emerald Cloud sect is in trouble, our Shangguan family will definitely lend a helping hand. Of course, the strength of our help will be different depending on the situation. If fellow Taoist Lin can help our Shangguan family with the complete mental cultivation technique, our Shangguan family will bear any trouble that the Emerald Cloud sect faces. What do you think? If not, I will send someone to announce that the Emerald Cloud sect's backer this year will still be our Shangguan family." Shangguan Feishing really wanted the mental cultivation technique in Lin Yi's hands. However, as he spoke, he lost his previous humility and reverted back to his previous arrogance. Lin Yi's expression turned cold. He glanced at Shangguan Feishing and said, "Are you mistaken? I've given you face by calling you Elder Shangguan, but don't think that you're someone important. Do you think I care about the Shangguan family's protection? Don't make it sound so funny, okay?" Shangguan Feishing was stunned. What was going on? He had taken the initiative to express his goodwill. Shouldn't Lin Yi thank him? If the Shangguan family and the Emerald Cloud sect were to join forces, they wouldn't have to worry about the Qianquan sect anymore. Especially since Lin Yi had the mental cultivation technique that the Shangguan family lacked. But what was Lin Yi's attitude? Was he looking down on the Shangguan family? To be honest, Lin Yi didn't really look up to the Shangguan family. With their cowardly attitude, where was the heroic spirit of Shanghai Tianhua? If word got out, it would be a disgrace to Shanghai Tianhua. I'll ask you one more time. In this archaic meeting, will the Shangguan family and the Emerald Cloud sect be friends or enemies? Lin Yi's face was cold as he continued with the previous topic. You've changed the topic before, but this time, I hope you can make it clear. If you want to be enemies with the Emerald Cloud sect, then I have nothing to worry about. I'll just step on both the Shangguan family and the Qianquan sect, and then support another sect to replace you. It doesn't matter if it's the Rising Sky sect, the Leaf Spirit sect, or even the Thousand Blades sect. School Beauty's side story, Chu Yao's side story. Today, on the Fishman's official QQ account, Fishman2, WeChat account Urine22. Don't miss it. Chapter 55:22. After that, Lin Yi turned around and said to Exai and Ijia, "What I meant was so obvious, yet you want me to explain it more clearly. These people are so hard to communicate with. I think the Shangguan family is useless. What do you think?" Exai and Ijia was 100% on Lin Yi's side. He immediately nodded and said, "That's true. Why don't we just go back? We can deal with the Qianquan sect and the Shangguan family anyway. It's not a big deal." Shangguan Qingyun was furious and said, "How dare you? Do you really think the two of you can just ignore our Shangguan clan?" Even if Lin Yi had some tricks up his sleeves, and Exai and Ijia was already a late nascent soul realm expert, Shangguan Qingyun and Exai and Ijia were at the same level, and Shangguan Feixing was at the perfected nascent soul realm. Together with Shangguan Luyun, who was at the mid-nascent soul realm, Shangguan Qingyun felt that he had the upper hand. However, Shangguan Feixing raised his hand to stop Shangguan Qingyun from continuing. He asked Lin Yi with a serious face, "Are you serious?" Lin Yi said indifferently, "I'm not in the mood to joke with you." After a pause, Lin Yi continued, "If sect leader Xian didn't tell me that the Shangguan family has been taking care of the Azure Cloud sect all these years, I wouldn't even bother to talk nonsense with you. You have to understand that I'm the Grand Master of the Azure Cloud sect, not the Grand Master of the Shangguan family. I don't even care about the Qianquan sect. How much do you think you're worth?" Shangguan Feixing was speechless. Lin Yi was right. Would a person who didn't even care about the Qianquan sect care about the Shangguan family? Lin Yi thought for a while and added, "Oh, by the way, I only said so much because I have a confidant who is related to the Shangguan family. Otherwise, do you think I would waste my time talking to her?" Shangguan Feixing, who was a little depressed by Lin Yi's words, was overjoyed. He quickly asked, "Is your confidant also an ancient essence soul?" "You don't need to know that. All you need to know is that it's true." Lin Yi was just casually mentioning it. Of course, he wouldn't tell her about Shanghai Laner. In fact, he was only doing this for the sake of Shanghai Tianhua. As for Shanghai Laner, perhaps she wouldn't care whether the Shangguan clan was related to her family or not. Shangguan Feixing continued to ask, "Then where is this woman of yours now? Can this old man pay a visit to her?" After hearing that Lin Yi had a female friend who was related to the Shangguan clan, Shangguan Feixing had already addressed Lin Yi with "Sir" twice. It was clear that he was quite anxious. Lin Yi didn't understand Elder Shangguan's thoughts at all. He waved his hand and said, "Impossible, you won't be able to see her." Shangguan Feixing couldn't hide the disappointment on his face. However, since Lin Yi had already said so, he couldn't say anything else. Right now, Shangguan Feixing was struggling in his heart. If he could see the woman mentioned by Lin Yi, it wouldn't be a big deal for the Shangguan clan to humble themselves. After all, everything that Lin Yi knew came from this female essence soul. Therefore, even without Lin Yi, the Shangguan clan's mental cultivation technique could still be completed. Apart from that, if this female essence soul was as powerful as Lin Yi, the Shangguan clan's rise would be unstoppable. Exai and Ijia, who was originally an early gold core ant, had now become a top-notch late nascent soul cultivator. In the entire ancient underworld, there weren't many people who could compete with Exai and Ijia. Unfortunately, there was one thing that Lin Yi was right about. No matter how powerful he was still the grand uncle of the Azure Cloud sect, not the grand uncle of the Shangguan clan. If there were any benefits, he could give some to the Shangguan clan, but most of it would definitely be given to the Azure Cloud sect. To the Shangguan clan, this was a great pity. Another thing was, although the Azure Cloud sect was very powerful now, it couldn't change the fact that the Azure Cloud sect used to be a sect under the Shangguan clan for a long time. Asking the Shangguan clan to cooperate with a sect under the Azure Cloud sect on an equal footing, or even to be in a weaker position, would be too shameful. Lin Yi saw Shangguan Feixing's hesitant expression, and Shangguan Qingyun, the current clan leader, didn't have any opinion. He was extremely disappointed in the Shangguan clan. It was because of this decision-maker that the Shangguan clan became the weakest of the four great clans. Even if they were given the complete mental cultivation technique, the Shangguan clan wouldn't be able to achieve much under the leadership of these two guys. Forget it, let's go. Lin Yi stood up and said to Xi and Ijia. He was about to walk out. At this point, the future of the Shangguan clan had nothing to do with Lin Yi anymore. Shangguan Feixing's expression changed. He was hesitating whether he should ask Lin Yi and Xi and Ijia to stay. It was better to wait and see. He would talk to Lin Yi after he had made up his mind. Right at this moment, a disciple ran over at lightning speed, stopped far away outside the living room, and said in a loud voice, reporting to Grand Supreme Elder, Clan Master, 2 nascent soul elders from Qianquan sect have come to visit. They say they want to catch the murderer of their sect master's son. Shangguan Feixing was stunned, and he was a little annoyed. Isn't this Qianquan sect too overbearing? Catch him? This is the Shangguan clan, not the Blue Cloud sect's territory. Aren't they disrespecting the Shangguan clan by coming here to catch the murderer? However, before Shangguan Feixing could say anything, the 2 nascent soul sect elders from the Qianquan sect had already barged into the living room. This made Shangguan Feixing even angrier. No matter what, they were from one of the 4 big sects, and they had barged into the living room without even notifying the Qianquan sect. This wasn't just disrespecting the Shangguan clan. In fact, the 2 nascent soul realm elders from the Qianquan sect did not have any special intention. They just heard from their informant that after Lin Yi entered the Shangguan clan, he continuously beat up the people of the Shangguan clan. Obviously, he had fallen out with the Shangguan clan. In this way, the Shangguan clan would definitely not accept the Blue Cloud sect as their sect. Since that was the case, why didn't they take this opportunity to catch Lin Yi? Why would they wait for the Blue Cloud sect to find a stronger backer? Although the Qianquan sect was sure that the other 4 great clans wouldn't disrespect them after they heard the news, it was also possible for the 5 Elements sect to accept the Blue Cloud sect. After all, Lin Yi was an alchemist, and the 5 Elements sect was also a great alchemist sect. Therefore, the Tribulation Master quickly sent 2 nascent soul realm cultivators to kill Lin Yi. The Fishman's new book, School Bell CEO Relies on Me, is currently being serialized. I recommend everyone to read it. Please add the Fishman's official QQ account, Fishman Second Generation, and WeChat account Urine 22 for all kinds of latest news and the latest news about the Fishman. Chapter 55-23. One of the 2 nascent soul realm experts was at the late nascent soul realm, while the other was at the middle nascent soul realm. In terms of strength, they were second only to Immortal Du Nan and Immortal Du Jia in the Qianquan sect. They were ranked 3rd and 4th in the Qianquan sect. Immortal Du Jia's dead son could not be compared to them at all. Immortal Du Jia believed that they were more than enough to kill Lin Yi. After all, his dead son was not talented. 80% of his strength came from the accumulation of exotic minerals and earthly treasures. His real strength was not even comparable to those at the peak of the late Gold Core realm. Which one is Lin Yi from the Green Cloud sect? Come out now. When the 2 nascent soul realm experts of the Qianquan sect entered the living room, They felt that the atmosphere was a little strange. However, they did not think too much about it. They just thought that this was the situation after the two sides had a falling out. So, they directly asked for Lin Yi. Then, they remembered that this was the territory of the Shangguan family, and it was not appropriate for them to be so direct. So, they cupped their hands and said to Shangguan Feishing and Shangguan Qingyun, "Senior Shangguan, Family Master Shangguan, we were ordered to catch the murderer, Lin Yi, who killed our sect leader's son. Please forgive us if we have disturbed you. If you don't mind, can you do us a favor?" It sounded like he was asking for their opinion, but in fact, his tone did not sound like he was asking for their opinion at all. He was just stating a fact forcefully. Shangguan Qingyun looked at Shangguan Feishing awkwardly. When his old man was here, he would never make a decision. Besides, he was not a man with a mind of his own, so he did not dare to make a decision recklessly. Looking at the aggressive and arrogant expressions of the two nascent soul realm experts, Shangguan Feishing suddenly felt a little angry. He had already suffered a lot because of Lin Yi. Now, these two elders of the Qianquan sect dared to be arrogant in front of him. Even though the Shangguan family was not as powerful as the Qianquan sect, Shangguan Feishing was a perfected nascent soul realm cultivator, which was on the same level as Immortal Du Nan. These two elders were really nothing in front of Shangguan Feishing. "You too, this is our Shangguan clan's territory. Don't you think it's against the rules for you to barge in without notifying us?" Shangguan Feishing's expression was as cold as ice, and he spoke in an indifferent tone. The two nascent soul realm cultivators from the Qianquan sect were startled at the same time. They didn't expect Shangguan Feishing to have such an attitude. After looking at each other, the late nascent soul realm elder said, "Senior Shangguan, we've talked about this just now. It's a sudden matter. Please forgive us. Shangguan clan, please do us a favor today, and our Qianquan sect will remember it in the future." Shangguan Feishing was still expressionless as he said, "I can forgive you, but I can't make it convenient for you. Right now, our Shangguan clan is welcoming the Blue Cloud sect's guests. Please wait outside. If there's anything, we'll talk about it after Jade Cloud sect pays their respects to the pier." Paying respects to the dock. I think they fell out. The late nascent soul stage elder of the Qianquan sect did not care about Shangguan Feishing at all. Whether or not there's a falling out, that's a matter between the Shangguan family and the Blue Cloud sect. There's no need for the Qianquan sect to worry. As for whether or not the Blue Cloud sect will be accepted by the Shangguan clan, it has nothing to do with your Qianquan sect. That's all I have to say. Please leave immediately. Shangguan Feishing's sudden, unyielding attitude surprised not only the two nascent soul realm cultivators. Even Shangguan Qingyun did not expect it. Lin Yi looked at Shangguan Feishing with a faint smile on his face. He had no intention of interfering. He thought that this old man was indecisive, but he didn't expect him to be so courageous. The late nascent soul stage elder of the Qianquan sect squinted his eyes and looked at Shangguan Feishing for a while. After all, Shangguan Feishing was a perfected nascent soul realm cultivator, and he didn't dare offend him. So he nodded and said, "All right, we'll wait at the entrance. Tell us if the Shangguan clan has accepted the Blue Cloud sect or not." Shangguan Feishing was furious. This tone was clearly a threat, as if the Qianquan sect would come and destroy the Shangguan clan at any time if the Shangguan clan dared to accept the Blue Cloud sect. If it was Lin Yi, he would have slapped the Qianquan sect elder. However, although Shangguan Feishing was unyielding for a while, he didn't dare offend the Qianquan sect too much. He could only swallow his anger and say, "Please go ahead." The two nascent soul stage elders of the Qianquan sect snorted at the same time. They waved their sleeves and were about to leave. Lin Yi, who had been watching the show for a long time, suddenly said, You two don't have to go ahead either. Yo, looks like you're quite tactful. You know that you can't escape after offending the Chinquan sect, so you're going to leave with us? The late nascent soul stage elder of the Chinquan sect said with a happy expression. It would be best if they could save themselves some trouble. Linny laughed and said, if you're stupid, you should read more books. Otherwise, it'll be difficult for you to understand what I'm saying. What I mean is, since you two are here, you don't have to leave. Before he finished his words, the soul hook hand had already struck out silently. The two nascent soul stage elders of the Chinquan sect didn't even have time to react before they fell to the ground. Everyone in the room was dumbfounded. What was going on? Why did the two nascent soul stage elders fall to the ground in a few seconds? Were they drunk? Did they suffer from heat stroke? Lin Yi turned to Exine Ijia and said, these two eyesores, throw them out and feed them to the dogs, lest they annoy me. Exine Ijia knew that Lin Yi was powerful, but he didn't know that Lin Yi was this powerful, a late nascent soul stage elder, and a middle nascent soul stage elder. He didn't even raise his hand, and they were killed just like that. Even if all the nascent soul stage elders in the ancient Jianghu united, they wouldn't be a match for Grand Uncle Master, right? Exine Ijia was so excited that he felt like his heart was going to explode. However, he still looked very calm on the surface. This was the time to fight for Grand Uncle Master's reputation, so he couldn't be too stupid. Yes, Grand Uncle Master, Exine Ijia said calmly. Then he picked up the two nascent soul stage elders on the ground and walked out slowly. As for the three nascent soul stage elders of the Shangguan clan, they were all scared out of their wits. What the hell did Linny do? He killed them just because of a disagreement. They didn't even see him move, and two nascent soul stage elders died just like that. If Lin Yi wanted to deal with the Shangguan clan, wouldn't it be as easy as flipping his palm? Come to think of it, when he was talking to Lin Yi just now, there were a lot of chances to kill them just because of a disagreement. It was already a miracle that they didn't die after Exine Ijia dealt with the two nascent soul stage elders from the Chinquan sect. He came back after a while. Seeing that the three people from the Shangguan clan were still in a daze, he coughed softly and said respectfully, Grand Uncle Master, the two dead people have been dealt with. The Campus Bell's story, Chu Mingyao's story, is being serialized on the Fishman's official QQ account, Fishman2, WeChat account Urine 22. Don't miss it. Chapter 55-24. However, seeing that Linny did not speak, he thought for a moment and added, Elder Shangguan, why don't we continue the topic just now? What is the Shangguan clan thinking? After speaking, Exine Ijia turned around and looked at Lin Yi. He was not sure if his words would make Grand Uncle Master unhappy. After all, the Shangguan clan came from one of the three great sects on the Northern Island. If possible, he should let them be with the Blue Cloud sect. Lin Yi was expressionless. He thought that Exine Ijia was quite smart. Shanghai Tianhua had done him a great favor, and he should help the Shangguan clan if he could. So he said calmly, I didn't want to talk nonsense with you guys. I was planning to go back to the Blue Cloud sect and see who's stronger in the Archean Grand Meeting. However, just now, your attitude was not bad. At the critical moment, you did not do anything that would make me look down on you even more. Therefore, I have changed my mind and will give you one more chance. I will reluctantly accept you as my little brother's sect. Shangguan Feishing smiled bitterly in his heart. Lin Yi initially came here to pay his respects, and he was prepared to accept the Shangguan clan as his backing sect. Just now, the Shangguan clan had the chance to be on equal footing with the Blue Cloud sect, but now they had become his little brother's sect. However, Shangguan Feishing no longer had any dissatisfaction. With the methods Lin Yi had displayed, he was indeed qualified to accept the Shangguan clan as his little brother sect, especially when Lin Yi still had a quarter of the Shangguan clan's missing mental cultivation method. Who could he blame? He could have gotten everything, but it was good enough that he could keep some of it. If he lost everything in the future, he wouldn't even have a place to cry. Shangguan Feishing sighed in his heart. He understood that it was inevitable for the Shangguan clan to become the Blue Cloud sect's vassal. Fortunately, this was not necessarily a bad thing, as the Shangguan clan might be able to rise in power in the near future. However, Shangguan Feishing still couldn't bring himself to do so. Hence, he lifted his leg and gave his son a kick. Then, he gave Shangguan Qingyun a meaningful look. Shangguan Qingyun instantly understood. He just didn't have his own opinions, but he wasn't stupid. He immediately put on a smile and said, "Senior Lin, no, Marshal Granduncle Lin, for you and sect leader Xin to think of our Shangguan clan, this junior is really grateful. Don't worry, Granduncle, during this immemorial grand meeting, our Shangguan clan will definitely follow the lead of the Blue Cloud sect. As long as Marshal Granduncle commands, the Shangguan family will definitely cooperate with you." Lin Yi nodded his head. The Shangguan clan had finally realized the situation they were in, and they didn't continue walking down the dark path. However, Lin Yi also understood that the Shangguan clan had submitted to Lin Yi because of his domineering attitude, and it wasn't because they were willing to submit to him. In order to make them truly submit to Lin Yi, he would need to give them some real benefits. For example, nascent soul and golden core. Lin Yi tossed the 2 nascent soul golden cores to Shangguan Qingyun. After Shangguan Qingyun instinctively caught them, he said indifferently, "Take advantage of the fact that the ancient meeting has yet to start to raise your strength. Otherwise, I'll have to divert my attention to take care of all of you. It would be bad if I fall behind the top 4. Nascent soul golden cores, and they're of the supreme grade." Shangguan Qingyun cried out in surprise. At first, he didn't know what Lin Yi had tossed over like a stone. When he saw it clearly, he was immediately at a loss of what to do. These were supreme grade nascent soul golden cores. How could he just casually toss them around like this? At the very least, he should have kept them in 2 top-quality spiritual jade bottles. Even Shangguan Feishing was shocked by Lin Yi's generosity. Originally, he wanted Lin Yi to tell the Shangguan clan more about the mental cultivation method. However, he felt that the relationship between the Shangguan clan and Lin Yi wasn't that good yet, so he had to wait until he could get closer to them. After all, with the help of a female primordial divinity grandmaster, there was still hope. However, the 2 supreme-grade nascent soul golden elixirs that Lin Yi had given out right now were definitely not any less valuable than the chant. After all, these were treasures that could immediately raise the Shangguan clan's combat strength. Even if the mental cultivation method was completed, it wouldn't be able to see its effects immediately. "Senior Lin, this gift is too precious." Shangguan Feishing was beaming with joy. He had completely let go of the last bit of unhappiness in his heart. However, he didn't dare to say that the gift was too precious, so he was embarrassed to accept it. If Lin Yi really took it back, he would really cry in the latrine. Lin Yi waved his hand nonchalantly and said, "It's no big deal. As long as they follow me sincerely, I will never mistreat them." Yes, yes, yes. Senior Lin, it's really hard to get a grandmaster like you. Our Shangguan clan has decided to return to the ranks of the 3 great sects of the North Island. Of course, we won't return to the Soaring Heaven sect, but to the Blue Cloud sect. Once he let go of the burden in his heart, Shangguan Feishing immediately did everything thoroughly. He even said that the Shangguan clan would return to the Blue Cloud sect. There's no need for that. After all, the Shangguan clan has a long history. There's no need for us to merge with the Blue Cloud sect. Of course, Linny wouldn't agree to this suggestion. If he did, he wouldn't be able to face Shanghai Tianhua in the future. Looking at Shangguan Feishing, Lin Yi immediately smiled and said, "Just say what you want to say. There's no need to beat around the bush." Shangguan Feishing said with a smile on his face, "Great martial uncle's eyes are really sharp. You've seen through this junior's thoughts with just a single glance. It's like this because our Shangguan clan's cultivation technique is incomplete. Many of our disciples can't progress any further. Great martial uncle, can you give us some pointers? If you just give us some pointers, we'll be able to avoid a lot of detours." To be honest, Shangguan Feishing didn't think that Lin Yi would tell them the missing mental cultivation method of the Shangguan clan after giving them the 2 nascent soul golden cores. However, Shangguan Feishing didn't want to give up without asking. So, he carefully made this request with the intention of giving it a try. What he didn't expect was that Lin Yi didn't even blink and agreed. "No problem. It's the mental cultivation method of your Shangguan clan, and I got it from the ancestors of your clan. It's only right for me to return it to you. Grandmaster, it's natural for you to feel troubled. After all, you have to inform the female ancestor first." "What? Grandmaster, you're saying—" "No problem." Shangguan Feishing, who was worried about his gains and losses, instinctively thought that Lin Yi had directly rejected him. In order to not offend Lin Yi, he subconsciously wanted to find a way for Lin Yi to step down. When he understood what was going on, he immediately felt like he could die from happiness. School Bell's story, Mingyao's story, is currently being serialized on the Fishman's WeChat account, Urine22. Don't miss it. Chapter 55-25. Without further ado, Lin Yi recited the rest of the mental cultivation method word by word. With the strength of these people, they could memorize it completely after hearing it once. Even if there were any omissions, the 3 of them could compare with each other, so there was no need to worry about them making any mistakes. After he finished reciting, Lin Yi said calmly, "This is the complete mental cultivation method that I know. Whether it's real or not, you can verify it yourself. I won't repeat myself if you remember it or not." "Thank you, Grandmaster." Shangguan Feishing was so excited that his eyes were brimming with tears. He almost knelt down in front of Lin Yi. With the complete version of the mental cultivation method, the rise of the Shangguan clan was just around the corner. Not to mention the 2 golden cores of nascent soul that Lin Yi had previously, he could also upgrade Shangguan Qingyun to the great perfection of the nascent soul realm. With 2 nascent soul realm cultivators at the great perfection of the Shangguan clan, even the Qianquan sect would not dare to provoke them. Speaking of which, the Qianquan sect had lost 3 nascent soul realm cultivators. Now that their strength had been greatly reduced, when Shangguan Qingyun reached the great perfection of the nascent soul realm, the status of both parties would be completely reversed. Lin Yi waved his hand at Xian Yijia, indicating that he could go back. As for the gratitude of the 3 guys from the Shangguan clan, Lin Yi just waved his hand to dismiss it. After leaving the Shangguan clan's gate, Xian Yijia, who had been forcing himself to stay calm, began to tremble with excitement. If he had done so just now, he would have embarrassed Lin Yi. But it didn't matter now. For Jadian's sect to have such a glorious moment, Xian Yijia had never thought of it before. Lin Yi chuckled and patted on Xian Yijia's shoulder. "Look at you, such a small matter, and you're already so excited. When you become the leader of the Jadian sect, the leader of the 4 major sects, you'll be so excited." "Grandmaster, you're right. I've never seen the world, but I'm really excited. Our Qingyun sect has never been so glorious before." Xian Yijia touched his head, awkwardly. He was already an old man, but he was still acting like a child. All right, all right. No matter what, you're a sect leader. We're about to return to the station, so pay attention to your image. Linny shook his head and reminded him with a faint smile. Then he didn't say anything more. Xin agreed and quickly took a few deep breaths to calm himself down. After a few steps, he had recovered a lot. All right, Grandmaster, since the Shangguan clan is now on our side, our Blue Cloud sect is already extremely powerful. Why don't we go look for the Xuanji sect as well? After Xin calmed down, he suddenly thought of Xuanji sect, one of the 3 major sects in the North Island, so he immediately suggested to Lin Yi with hope. What a great guy! Lin Yi secretly laughed in his heart. Xin attached great importance to the words come from the same lineage. That's why he secretly suggested to help the Shangguan clan, and now he wanted to help the Xuanji sect. However, Xin had a sense of propriety. It was all within the scope that Lin Yi could allow. Therefore, not only did Lin Yi not dislike it, but he also felt that Xin was indeed a trustworthy person. If you think it's a good idea, just do it. I have no opinion. Lin Yi didn't care much about the Xuanji sect. After all, it was just a sect that didn't even enter the top 10. Moreover, Lin Yi didn't have much of a relationship with the Xuanji Pavilion on the Heaven Stage Island. Since Xin mentioned it, he would help him if he could. It wouldn't take much effort anyway. Xin was overjoyed. He clenched his fist hard and said, "Thank you so much, Grandmaster. I'll go to the Xuanji sect and have a talk with them later." Although they have already found the 5 Elements sect as their backing, it won't stop the Xuanji sect from returning to the top 3 sects of the Northern Island. In fact, there would definitely be an impact. However, after Xin saw how Lin Yi dealt with the Qianquan sect, he naturally had a sense of pride and arrogance. He felt that even if the 5 Elements sect had an opinion, it would be insignificant to the Blue Cloud sect. Moreover, Xin believed that Lin Yi would never care about the 5 Elements sect's opinion. All right, do as you see fit. Just let me know when you're done. Lin Yi said indifferently. He then walked into the courtyard of the Blue Cloud sect station. In the open space in the courtyard, there was a disciple of the Blue Cloud sect practicing his martial arts. He controlled the power of the martial arts within a radius of half a foot around his body, without any leakage at all. It could be seen that he was quite talented in this aspect. Xin walked in behind Lin Yi. Seeing the situation in the courtyard, he immediately showed a satisfied smile. He nodded slightly and said, "Half a step to the right, hold the strength, and hit with an inch to recover the qi." "Good. That's it." The disciple in the courtyard performed the martial arts perfectly according to Xin instructions. After finishing, he immediately saluted respectfully and said, "Disciple Jin Weifeng pays respect to Grand Master and Master." Lin Yi nodded with a smile and said, "Not bad. He's a good seedling. Ijia, this disciple of yours is not bad. Be careful, he'll surpass you soon." Xin laughed and said, "It's rare that Grand Master appreciates this kid. If he really can surpass me, it'll be a wonderful thing. However, I have Grand Master's protection. It'll be a little difficult for this kid to surpass me." Lin Yi couldn't help but smile. This Xin really liked telling the truth. However, what he meant was that he wanted Lin Yi to help improve his disciple Jin Weifeng's strength. To be honest, Lin Yi was quite optimistic about Jin Weifeng. As Xi's direct disciple, Jin Weifeng was lacking in cultivation resources in the past. After all, before he met Lin Yi, Xin was only in the early stage of Gold Core, which ranked the lowest in Jadian sect. It was not enough for him to take care of Jin Weifeng. However, Jin Weifeng was indeed a talented guy. He did not participate in the training in the secular world in order to break through to foundation perfected. After Lin Yi completed the Jadian sex skills, he succeeded in breaking through to Gold Core. Without Lin Yi's help, Xian Ijia would have been overtaken or even surpassed by his own disciple. Unfortunately, there was no more Gold Core. Otherwise, he could have trained Jin Weifeng well. Lin Yi sighed in his heart. However, he immediately felt something was wrong. Jin Weifeng, you're already at the peak of late-stage Gold Core. Lin Yi didn't notice it just now. Now, he suddenly realized that Xian Ijia's direct disciple had already reached the peak of late-stage Gold Core. In an instant, Lin Yi's eyes were as cold as ice, because the first thing he thought of was that Jin Weifeng had defected to the center. In the entire ancient underworld, other than Lin Yi, only the center had the ability to greatly improve a person's strength in a short period of time. Lin Yi knew very well that he definitely did not help Jin Weifeng. So, the only possibility was the center. The Fishman's new book, School Bell CEO Relies on Me, is being serialized. I recommend everyone to read it. Please add the Fishman's official QQ account, Fishman2, WeChat, official Urine 22, all kinds of latest news and updates. Fishman's latest news to be continued. Chapter 55-26. Jin Weifeng only broke through the Golden Core stage after Lin Yi came to the ancient Jianghu and perfected the Jadian sex martial arts. How long had it been? He was already at the peak of the late stage of Golden Core, and he was showing signs of breaking through. He could reach the Golden Core full cycle at any time. Xian Ijia did not notice Lin Yi's suspicion. He said proudly, "Grand Master, Weifeng is definitely a hidden genius in our Jadian sect. His progress was slow because of the incomplete martial arts. Thanks to you, Grand Master, after getting the complete martial arts, Weifeng immediately soared to the sky." Lin Yi squinted his eyes and hid the coldness in them. Jin Weifeng had sought refuge with the center, but his aura was different from those who had sought refuge with the center. Perhaps there was something hidden. After all, Lin Yi had been dealing with the center since Zhang Wen and Kong Mingming. The center's improvement in strength gave off a cold aura that made people feel uncomfortable. Such a fast speed of cultivation. He is indeed a genius. Ijia, you have a good eye. Lin Yi said lightly while observing Jin Weifeng carefully. Jin Weifeng said embarrassedly, "Grand Master, you flatter me. In fact, I have a fast speed of cultivation because of my special physique. Moreover, at my current level, it's impossible to continue to break through quickly." "Oh, do you have a special physique?" Lin raised his eyebrows and became curious. Xian Ijia said quickly, "Grand Master, Weifeng has a wood attribute spiritual root, broken bamboo physique. With his physique, as long as he has enough spirit jades, he will be able to break through quickly without any bottlenecks. He will only stop when he reaches the barrier of a major rank. It's just like how every section of bamboo is hollow in front of the bamboo joint. If he can break through in one go, he will be able to break through the barrier of a major rank easily. Broken bamboo physique. That's amazing," Lin Yi said with some surprise. This was the first time he had heard of this kind of physique. As long as one broke through a major level, they could cultivate to the next major level without any bottlenecks. This kind of cultivation talent was really heaven-defying. In that case, Xian Ijia must have provided a large amount of spiritual jades to Jin Weifeng. That was why Jin Weifeng could improve so quickly. It was comparable to eating the Gold Core golden pill. As for Xian Ijia's spiritual jades, those who followed Lin Yi would not worry about a shortage of spiritual jades. Jin Weifeng smiled shyly and said, "Martial granduncle is too kind. Master has also exaggerated a little. The cultivation speed of the broken bamboo physique is quite fast, but in terms of the power of martial skills, there is no special addition. If I were to encounter an existence like the shattered ice physique, I would definitely not be a match for it. Basically, all the disciples in the Jadian sect knew about the relationship between Lung Lung and Lin Yi. Those who did not participate in the training in the common world would also hear about it from the disciples who did. After all, it was related to their legendary grandmaster. Everything would be discussed. Hence, Jin Weifeng subconsciously used Lung Lung's ice-shattering physique as an example. It's already a heaven-defying talent to be able to improve your strength quickly without relying on external forces. You're too greedy to pursue the power of your attack. Linny said with a smile. He pointed at Xianigia and said, "Your Shifu is really not bad. He wants you to level up as soon as possible. As your Shifu, I should really help you out." Xianigia nodded. Xianigia was instantly overjoyed. He was the one who knew Lin Yi's means the best. Therefore, compared to Jin Weifeng, he was even more proud. He said that just now because he wanted Lin Yi to help Jin Weifeng. If a person with the broken bamboo physique could not break through the barrier of a big level in one go, then it would be much more difficult than ordinary people to break through the barrier. The peak of the late Gold Core realm was not the bottleneck, but the great completion of the Gold Core realm. However, as long as Lin Yi agreed to help, it would not be a problem. Silly boy, hurry up and thank Martial Granduncle for his guidance. Xianigia reminded Jin Weifeng with a smile. Jin Weifeng seemed to have woken up from a dream. He showed an ecstatic expression and thanked respectfully. "Thank you for your guidance, Martial Granduncle." "You're welcome. This is also because of your hard work. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to help you even if I wanted to." Lin Yi smiled faintly. This was not nonsense. If Jin Weifeng did not advance to the peak of the late Gold Core realm by himself, Lin Yi would not be able to help him even if he wanted to without the Golden Core realm. "Go back to your room first. I'll protect you until you break through to the great completion of the Gold Core realm." Lin Yi already had a plan in mind. Jin Weifeng's broken bamboo physique was quite special. Now that he was at the peak of the late Gold Core realm, as long as he had enough spiritual qi, he could advance to the great completion of the Gold Core realm. For others, this level was considered a breakthrough, but for Jin Weifeng, it was just a natural advancement. Jin Weifeng naturally had no objection. He immediately returned to his room with Lin Yi. Lin Yi asked Jin Weifeng to sit down and start cultivating. Then he took out dozens of spirit jades and surrounded Jin Weifeng's body. He forcibly extracted the spiritual power from the spirit jades and instilled it into Jin Weifeng's body. In fact, this was the same as Lin Yi directly extracting spiritual power from the space of the jade pendant for Jin Weifeng. However, according to past experience, Lin Yi's current strength was only at the great completion of the Foundation Establishment realm. It was ineffective for the Gold Core realm, so he could only use spirit jades as a medium. Moreover, this method could only be used by people like Jin Weifeng, who had a broken bamboo physique. If it was someone else, they wouldn't be able to withstand this crude force-feeding method. To some extent, Jin Weifeng's broken bamboo physique was somewhat similar to Wang Xinyan's sponge physique, but Lin Yi could only forcibly instill spiritual power like this. If Lin Yi wanted to forcibly instill Jin Weifeng from the early nascent soul realm to the great completion of the nascent soul realm, it would be impossible for Lin Yi to complete it unless he used the space of the jade pendant. The terrifying power of not having a bottleneck was displayed in an instant. The spiritual power of dozens of spirit jades was gathered by Lin Yi and directly made Jin Weifeng reach the great completion of the Gold Core realm. Jin Weifeng's body shook, and he immediately opened his eyes in surprise and said, I'm already at the great completion of the Gold Core realm. Grandmaster, you're really amazing. If he had to describe it in one sentence, Jean Weifeng might say, I closed my eyes and opened them, and I went from the peak of the Gold Core realm to the great completion of the Gold Core realm. Lin Yi turned his hand and took out a nascent soul golden pill and handed it to Jean Weifeng and said, Your physique is indeed strong. Because you have no bottleneck, you don't need to stabilize your strength. Now break through to the nascent soul realm in one go. Jean Weifeng saw the supreme grade nascent soul golden pill in Lin Yi's palm and was immediately shocked. Grandmaster, this is too precious, and I have just reached the great completion of the nascent soul realm. Can I take the nascent soul golden pill now? The Fishman's new book, CEO Schoolbell Relies on Me, is being serialized. I recommend everyone to read it. Please add the Fishman's QQ God public account. Fishman 2, WeChat public account, you're in 22, all kinds of latest news, and the latest developments of the Fishman, that you're tuning in to the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.